Chapter 159. In the Qian that was following behind, Tang Wei was a bit disappointed as she turned her head and looked outside of the car window. Tang Wei, did you do it last night? Bai Xiaojun, who was sitting at the side, asked in a low voice. Sigh. If only I did it last night. Tang Wei shook her head, then let out a deep sigh. Thinking about how Uncle Wei acted last night, she felt both angry and funny at the same time. Iran, who was sitting at the front, also became interested. She turned her head and said with a smile, Xiao Tang, you are already dressed so sexily. Could it be that Uncle Wei did not have any reaction? Gugu seemed to have injected stimulants last night, and Wen Xia was even more miserable. Sure enough, Wen Xia, who was driving the car, blushed, and Bai Xiaojun even pouted. Iran, don't say any more. Look at the two of you, tsk. Iran laughed. Tang Wei let out a deep sigh again. Other people are so blessed, and yet I am worrying about this kind of thing. Forget it. Let's just let nature take its course. 2 hours later, Yihua finally got off the highway and arrived at a small town. Yihua chose a remote location to put on an act for the entire time. Have we arrived? Qingye got up from Yihua's embrace and opened the car window to take a look. Yihua nodded his head and arrived at the agreed location, but Yi Zizi had not arrived yet. She couldn't have gone to prank me again, right? I'm a bit hungry. Qingye rubbed onto her flat stomach and said embarrassedly. She was a pregnant woman, so it was normal for her to be hungry. After all, the big ones have to eat. The small ones have to eat too. Madam, the food in this small town is rather small. Wei Chang took a look and said. Qingye's eyes lit up. Isn't there a Shaxian snack there? Let's go there. Yihua had tasted this Shaxian snack before, and it was not bad. Alright, let's treat it as lunch. Yihua approved. The appearance of 2 Qians in this small town still attracted quite a bit of attention. Curious about what kind of people were sitting inside, the roadside stalls all paid attention to them. When they saw the people that got off the car, all of the males' eyes almost popped out, especially the one that was in the car at the back. He was simply about to spurt out blood. I can't take it anymore. As celebrities, the 3 of them had already secretly changed their appearances before they alighted from the car. This was also done by the Lai Gu sect. It was more convenient for them to go out and play together. After all, it was more exciting outside than at home. Although the beauty in the car behind made people spurt blood, the woman in the car in front helped them stop the bleeding. It was a sacred and inviolable feeling, so beautiful that it felt unreal. But it was such a woman. That willowy waist was actually hugged by a man. God damn it. But for some reason, everyone felt that this group of people seemed to revolve around this man. It was really incomprehensible. Wasn't he just good looking? This was really an era where looks mattered. Right now, Yihua was also contacting Yi Zizi. Yi Zizi expressed her apologies and said that she would be coming over immediately. There was no one in the snack bar in Shaxian County. The boss was sitting at the table. There was a mobile phone, dumpling wrappers, and minced meat on the table. He was watching a drama while making dumplings. Hearing the sound of the door opening, the boss looked up and was shocked. He hurriedly rubbed his hands and asked with a smile, What would you like to eat? Qingye looked at the menu on the wall and said faintly, A set of steamed dumplings, Yihua. What do you want to eat? Stir-fried rice noodle, add an extra egg. Yihua said faintly. Lai Gu pursed his lips. Give me a set of mixed noodles. Wei Chang asked Tang Wei concernedly. Xiao Tang, what do you want to eat? Anything will do. Tang Wei's mood was a bit gloomy, but it was also normal. Last night, I had already hinted at Uncle Wei so crazily, but Uncle Wei did not even have any reaction. Thinking up to here, Tang Wei was greatly shocked. Does it mean that people can't get it up after reaching middle age? And Uncle Wei was embarrassed to say it out. I am too stupid. Isn't this the same as rubbing salt on Uncle Wei's wound? I shouldn't be doing this. I should think of a way to help Uncle Wei nourish his body and recuperate for a bit. Then, I will go and inquire about the old prescriptions of the people and prescribe some medicine for Uncle Wei to eat. Wei Chang was still looking at the menu, and Tang Wei, who was behind him, had already given him the title of impotence. Give me a ginseng black chicken soup then. Wei Chang said. Tang Wei had an as expected look on her face. Even Uncle Wei himself knows to nourish his body. My pitiful Uncle Wei has fallen into a chronic illness after reaching middle age. In the future, I have to take good care of him and not let Uncle Wei get injured again. Thinking about last night, Uncle Wei was definitely very gloomy. Last night, Wei Chang was indeed very gloomy. The four of them sat at a table, and very quickly, the steamed dumplings were served. Qingye felt that the steamed dumplings were pretty good. Yi Hua, does your cousin live here? Qingye asked curiously. That's right. I just want to go out and see the world. Yi Hua could only say this. Qingye said tenderly. Girls should go out and see the world in the first place. Only then would they not be cheated by bad men. This is scolding the locust tree, while pointing at the mulberry tree. Wei Chang and Lai Gu really wanted to change to another table. The madam is too formidable, to the point that even his honor is speechless. Then you have to go out and see the world more. Yi Hua was not someone who was easy to provoke. Qingye snorted and no longer paid attention to Yi Hua. You only know how to talk back, Zizi. The sound of the door attracted everyone's attention. The boss who was currently working looked towards the door, and the spoon that was in his hand even dropped onto the ground. This lowly is simply asking for my life. Yi Zizi could be seen wearing a light blue off-shoulder princess dress. Her beautiful collarbone was faintly discernible. The butterfly knot on her waist was cute and moving, and layers upon layers of lace adorned the beautiful dress. She was wearing a big round hat on her head, and her twin ponytails were hanging very naturally behind her head. Different from yesterday, her ponytails were slightly curled up today. Seems like she might have gone to have her hair permed just now. Her pair of small hands were even wearing long gloves, and she was even holding onto a cute little umbrella. She looked just like a little loli that walked out from a two-dimensional world. Looking at Yi Zizi, who was dressed up like this, Yi Hua couldn't help but feel a bit of a headache. She's your cousin? Qingye mumbled and asked. Yi Hua nodded his head. I feel that she has seen more of the world than me. Qingye felt that this little loli was a princess from a European royal family. For her to be dressed up so gorgeously, it seemed as if she was going to attend a very important banquet. Yi Zizi was indeed thinking like that. In any case, it was her first time meeting the madam, so of course, it had to be a bit more grand. Thus she forgot about Yi Hua's words. Big brother, Yi Zizi waved her hand excitedly, and her pair of eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. If it was possible, Yi Hua didn't want to respond. Coming. Hello big sister-in-law, I am Yi Zizi. Yi Zizi directly ran in front of Qingye, and used that lowly voice to act cute. In actuality, Qingye had never seen such a cute little loli before. But why do I feel that she looks familiar? I seem to have seen her in my dream last night. Of course, Qingye had seen Yi Zizi who was lying in the coffin before. Just that, Yi Hua said that it was a dream. If I give birth to a daughter, I will definitely dress up like this too. Yi Zizi, you are so cute. It was rare for Qingye to reveal a smile towards a stranger. Hee big sister-in-law, can Zizi hug you? Chapter 160. This was the death stare of a supreme being, no, the stare of the Vinegar King. What are you hugging? Yi Hua shouted out coldly. In this world, I am the only one who is capable of hugging. Sure enough, Yi Zizi's hand that was stretched out immediately retracted back, then lowered her head, causing Qingye's heart to ache endlessly. What are you doing, yelling at a girl? Qingye glared at Yi Hua petulantly, then squatted down and lightly hugged onto Yi Zizi. Ignore him, he is the king of jealousy. Yi Zizi's face immediately brightened up, and with a smile on her face, she leaned into Qingye's embrace. Sister-in-law, your embrace is so warm. This little girl was too good at talking, just like Ali. Zizi is also very pretty. Cousin-in-law likes her very much. What do you like? Pay the bill and leave. Yi Hua was in a bad mood. Standing up, he walked to the door and lit up a cigarette. Seems like I didn't burn enough yesterday. Qingye laughed bitterly. Don't care about him. Zizi will listen to big sister-in-law. Whatever big sister-in-law says, Zizi will do it. In the past, Yi Zizi did not have any backing, but right now, with Qingye as her backing, Yi Zizi's career would definitely soar. And so obedient, Qingye stretched out her hand, and pinched onto Yi Zizi's little face. Wei Chang and Lai Gu were immediately startled. However, Yi Zizi didn't react excessively. She was still smiling, which made the two of them feel relieved. They were afraid that Yi Zizi would instantly kill the madam. Other than Yi Hua, Qingye was the second person who dared to pinch Yi Zizi's face. No, Qingye was the first human who dared to pinch Yi Zizi's face. Yi Hua gave a serious warning to Yi Zizi, while Yi Zizi expressed that it was sister-in-law who was holding her hand, and that she was being wronged. Only a fool would believe you. Half an hour ago, Qingye was still snuggling up to Yi Hua, and right now, Yi Zizi was sitting in the middle of the car. Sit in the car at the back, Yi Hua said. Yi Zizi immediately revealed an expression of fear, then immediately hugged onto Qingye. Pouncing onto Qingye was a matter of course. Qingye patted onto Yi Zizi's shoulder, then said to Yi Hua, "Why are you being so fierce for? The one who was supposed to receive it is you, and the one who is supposed to be scolding right now is also you." Wei Chang and Lai Gu pretended not to hear anything. Lai Gu, when we reach Long'an City, bring Yi Zizi to look for a house to stay in. Yi Hua decided to change his way of thinking. Before even waiting for Lai Gu to reply, Qingye said unwillingly, "You are letting an 8-year-old little girl stay outside by herself. Is there any big cousin like you? 8 years old? Even if it wasn't 8,000, it would at least be 800. Sister-in-law Zizi is scared," Yi Zizi said pitifully. "Yi Hua, you don't have to argue with Yi Hua anymore. Yutong's room is big enough. Just let Zizi and Yutong sleep in the same room." Qingye gave a suggestion that could not be opposed. But was it really okay to let two Chinibu girls sleep together? Aren't you afraid of causing a commotion? If Qingye knew about Yi Hua's future development, she would definitely agree to Yi Hua's request. Going out to live was also a kind of release. After all, a child should live independently as early as possible. Yi Hua glared at Qingye. "If anything happens, you settle it yourself." "Let's settle it then." Qingye snorted. "Eldest cousin-in-law, you are so good to Zizi." Yi Zizi smiled sweetly, which melted Qingye's heart. Just that, when Qingye saw that Yi Zizi's pupils were scarlet red, she became very puzzled. "Zizi, why are your eyes red? Did you wear cosmetic contact lenses?" Yi Zizi blinked her beautiful eyes. "No, Zizi was born like this." Although it was rather weird, this pair of red pupils in Yi Zizi were still quite effective. 4 p.m. in the afternoon, the group of people arrived at the entrance of Leisure Bar. Qingye brought Yi Zizi into the bar first, while Yi Hua had to give a few instructions. "Do not slacken your intelligence work. Report to me on time every day. Also, let Xiao Jiu go and handle Yi Zizi's identity information." Yi Hua said faintly, "Yes, yes." Yi Hua nodded his head, lit up a cigarette, and walked into Leisure Bar. Wei Chang unbuckled his seatbelt and said, "You can go back first. I will go and send Xiao Tang off." "Gluttonous monster. What are you talking about? Send her off by car. You are even riding a bicycle to send her off." Right now Lai Gu was very extravagant. Lai Gu could be seen opening the car door and saying, "This car is for you. Don't be too stingy when chasing after a woman. Sometimes, you also need to give her some face." Wei Chang went into a daze for a moment, then felt that what Lai Gu said was right. Not having a car was indeed inconvenient. "I won't be polite then." Lai Gu immediately revealed out a crafty smile. "Then, I will hand over the matter that your honor instructed me just now to you. Bye-bye." After pausing for a moment, Lai Gu added another sentence. "Grab hold of the opportunity at night. As a brother, I can only help you to this step." Wei Chang knew that Lai Gu definitely did not have good intentions by gifting a car for no reason. However, this kind of small matter can be handed over to Death Mage to take care of. After sending Xiao Tang back, I still have to go to work at night. Not long later, Tang Wei sat on the car and cried out in surprise. "Uncle Wei, why did you suddenly want to buy this car?" It was definitely Lai Gu who said it again. "It's convenient for me to pick you up." Wei Chang stretched out his hand and stroked onto Tang Wei's cheek. "But this car is too expensive." "It's fine, Uncle Wei can afford it." Wei Chang laughed and headed towards Tang Wei's residence. Lai Gu went back as well. "I haven't even handed over my public allowance for today." In leisure bar. Just when Yihua walked up the stairs, he heard Qing Yutong's cry of surprise and Yi Zizi's cry of surprise. Pushing open Qing Yutong's door and taking a look, even Qing Yu went into a daze at the side. Qing Yutong could be seen wearing a level 3 helmet, a level 3 bulletproof vest. A frying pan was hanging on her butt, and she was also wearing a teacher's uniform. Yi Zizi's gaze was fiery, as if she had found a like-minded comrade. Brother-in-law, big sister, you two only went out for a day, and the child is already so big. Qing Yutong cried out in surprise and carried Yi Zizi up. This little loli is too cute. Yi Zizi felt that this aunt's embrace was not as warm as her sister-in-law's, but it was still rather comfortable. Whoa, aunt, you are going to suffocate me to death. Yi Zizi couldn't take it anymore. This aunt is too savage. Aunt. Qing Yutong immediately collapsed. Forget about being called Aunt by Ali. Right now. Even this little loli wants to call me aunt. Don't you think that I should be angry? Yutong. She is called Yi Zizi. She is your brother-in-law's cousin. Qing Ye explained. Qing Yutong's eyes lit up. Why call me aunt? Call me big sister. I am your sister-in-law's little sister. Since she is sister-in-law's little sister, I will give her face. Hello, big sister. Mommy, this is too cute. Where did you buy this princess dress from? Not bad, I bought a lot of it too. But I didn't dare to wear it, afraid that other people would say that I am a lunatic. It's all right now, we can wear it together. Yihua said faintly. 2 lunatics. Really? Zizi also has a lot of beautiful princess dresses. Zizi, do you know what cosplay is? Yi Zizi shook her head, indicating that she was a newbie. Come, big sister has a lot of beautiful clothes, let me share with you. Chapter 161. Qing Ye had originally thought that Yi Zizi would stick to her very much, but I didn't expect that. Yi Zizi would be snatched away by her younger sister. It's just a few pieces of clothing. Do you think that it'll hurt or not? Yihua walked in front of Qing Ye and said faintly, this is just the beginning. In the future, you will have to suffer. After finished speaking, Yihua walked into the bedroom and prepared to take a bath. Qing Ye seemed to be able to see through why Yihua was worried. Look at that smug look on her little sister's face. As if I have a lot of beautiful clothes that you don't. Meanwhile, Zizi's eyes were shining brightly, and her face was filled with envy. Letting out a sigh, Qing Ye walked into the bedroom, and just happened to see that Yihua was currently changing his clothes. Originally, Qing Ye wanted to avoid Yihua for a while, but thinking that they were already an old couple, what was the point of avoiding Yihua? What's wrong? You're not going to seduce them anymore? Go to hell. Qing Ye snorted. Since you asked Yi Zizi to come over and live with me, you will have to be responsible for her in the future. Yihua said faintly, then walked into the bathroom. Qing Ye let out a deep sigh, then sat on the bedside and covered her face. Yi Zizi doesn't seem to be that loli that she looks like on the surface. At this moment, in the Bai family in the far north, Bai Cixin held the 9 demons punishing tower in her hands and studied it carefully. Meanwhile, the black mist above the 9 demons punishing tower slowly wrapped around Bai Cixin's hands. Wang Debao and Bai Qi stood at the side. Honey, be careful. Wang Debao shouted worriedly. Bai Cixin shook her head and said softly, I'm fine. Don't be nervous. Sure enough, the black fog only circled around for a while before shrinking back into the tower. We have the 9 demons punishing pagoda. Our Bai family can also become an aristocratic family. Bai Cixin slowly put down the 9 demons punishing tower. Her beautiful eyes were filled with the yearning for power. Congratulations on getting your wish, big sister, Bai Qi said with a smile. Wang Debao was the same. Congratulations, my wife. Bai Cixin chuckled. Our Bai family is not the only one who has an ancient godly device. The Xiao family also has one. However, there is only one spot. Sis, why don't we destroy the Xiao family? Bai Qi suggested. Bai Cixin picked up the teacup, blew on it gently and took a sip. I want to, but there are rules. Xiao Yi is at his weakest right now. This is indeed a good opportunity, Wang Debao said in a deep voice. How about I go there and probe it first? There's no need for that, so as to avoid alerting the enemy. Seizing the ancient godly item, and squeezing into the aristocratic families is only the first step. And our next step is not just the aristocratic families, but also the three big shots that restrict the aristocratic families. Speaking of the three tycoons, Wang Debao and Bai Qi's expressions became grave. In order to become an aristocratic family, the first thing they needed was an ancient godly item. Every 5 years there would be a selection. Originally, the Xiao family had already entered the ranks of aristocratic families. But unfortunately, another ancient godly item had appeared, causing them to have to fight for that slot. For the aristocratic families, the first reaction was that they were mysterious. But for the three giants above the aristocratic families, they were even more elusive. After all, no one from the three giants had ever appeared before. No one knew what they were capable of, where they were, or how strong they were. However, there was one thing that could be seen clearly, and that was that all of the aristocratic families were restricted by the three big shots. If not, they would have fought with each other a long time ago. Who didn't want to collect more ancient godly items? Thus, the three big shots declared that all aristocratic families could only possess one ancient godly item, and they were not allowed to participate in the worldly plundering. Those who violated this rule would be exterminated. From this point, it could be seen how big of a risk Tang Wushuang had taken to invite Yi Xiao over. Fortunately, Yi Xiao left in the end. Bai Cixin put down the teacup in her hand and said faintly, "Hubby, have you transferred all of your companies over? Once this matter is out of the south, you won't be able to go there anymore." "Wife, don't worry, the headquarters in Gaohai City is just an empty shell." Wang Debao was a little smug. Bai Cixin praised, "Hubby, not bad, you even know how to prepare for a rainy day." "Learning from my wife, I definitely have some experience." "Then, hubby, what kind of experience did you conclude this time?" Bai Cixin said with a gentle smile. Wang Debao was instantly stupefied. Even Bai Qi couldn't bear to look straight at him. "Who asked you to act cool?" Wang Debao coughed lightly and said gravely, "This time, under the wise leadership of my wife, it wasn't easy for us to obtain a great victory. If it wasn't for my wife's intelligence, how could I, your husband, be able to succeed so easily?" Bai Cixin covered her mouth and laughed lightly. "To be able to receive such a high evaluation from my husband, I, your wife, am overwhelmed by the favor. It's what I should do, it's what I should do." Wang Debao laughed mischievously. He was looking forward to the reward very much. After withdrawing her smile, Bai Cixin asked seriously, "Hubby, tell me what happened last night in detail. Don't leave out any details." "All right." In the next hour, Wang Debao fully displayed his eloquence, turning himself into an undying hero, and obtained the most valuable treasure. Brother-in-law is truly amazing, to be able to deceive those few families. Bai Qi sighed. "This brother-in-law of mine looks like a simpleton, but in actuality, he is full of evil tricks." After hearing what Bai Qi said, Bai Cixin didn't say anything, and with a grave expression, she stood up. "You said that the black robe appeared at the start, and he even brought along Yin Sect's sect head, Sun Fang. And in the end, he ran away for no reason?" "That's right, I am also puzzled. They suddenly appeared, and I thought that they were also after the ancient godly item, but who knew that they would run away?" Wang Debao also didn't understand what was going on. Sun Fang's reputation had already spread far and wide a few days ago, and yet, this black robe brought her out again, making her furious, making her hate. Could it be that the black robe wants to make her his own? Bai Cixin muttered. "Big sister, you can even think of this." Bai Qi exclaimed. Wang Debao chose to remain silent, otherwise, he would have to ask more questions later on. Bai Cixin continued. "Even though I've never seen that black robe before, I'm sure that a powerhouse like him wouldn't do something so despicable. Someone must have slandered him, and Black Robe took advantage of this to isolate Sun Fang. This is also why Black Robe suddenly appeared. He wanted everyone to slander Sun Fang, so that Sun Fang could see her situation clearly." After hearing what Bai Cixin said, Wang Debao's expression became grave, and he let out a breath. "That black robe is too terrifying. His thoughts are actually so meticulous." "What happened to the little girl in the coffin in the end?" Bai Cixin asked. Wang Debao shook his head. I don't know at that time. I took the 9 demons punishing tower and ran away. Who would have the time to care about a corpse? Who is that Songdi who suddenly appeared? Who knows, but he seems to be in contact with the people in the north. Wang Debao said. What about the people that you brought with you? Bai Cixin asked. I can't contact all of them. I heard that He Feng, Xu Jinhai, and Mankai didn't come back either. It's as if they disappeared from the world. Bai Cixin took a deep breath. Hubby, Bai Qi, I feel that this matter isn't that simple. We have to be careful right now. The forces in the south will definitely not let what happened last night go. There is going to be a tough battle soon. Bai Qi, you go and make arrangements. All right, big sister. After speaking, Bai Qi took the lead and left. What about me? Wang Debao asked with a smile. Bai Cixin slowly walked over and held onto her husband's hand, then said tenderly, Hubby has worked hard for an entire night outside. Of course I have to reward you. F***K, the main show is coming. The two came to the bedroom, and Bai Cixin took a charming look at Wang Debao. Hubby, this time I bought an enhanced version of popping candy. And it's even spicy. It should taste good if you pair it with ice water. Chapter 162. Zijin City. Within Tang family's manor, Tang Wushuang was currently sitting on the sofa, while trembling with fear. Behind him were his 2 wives, Quan Anrong and Mu Jia. A middle-aged man was sitting on the sofa in the middle. His hair was smooth and shiny, thick eyebrows, big eyes, tall nose bridge, and the shape of his face was even more so the golden ratio. Just that, his dressing was a bit casual, with a shirt, flowery shorts, and flip-flops. The man looked at his phone, then picked up the teacup and took a sip, and his brows slightly wrinkled. Upon seeing that, Mu Jia immediately walked forward and personally poured the tea for him. Suddenly the man shouted out, This damned author is breaking a chapter again. It's fine if he updates slowly. He even breaks chapters every day. And he even shamelessly asks for tips. Ask for recommendation votes. Wushuang. Send me a box of razor blades to this author. Forget it. Directly find this author for me and ask him to update for me every day. If he doesn't update, I'll beat him to death. Tang Wushuang laughed dryly. All right, master, I'll do it immediately. The man's name was Gui Chungren. 5 years ago, he saved Tang Wushuang, who was on the verge of death, and taught him some skills. After that, Tang Wushuang returned to the city and showed off his capabilities, taking back everything that belonged to him. Gui Chungren put down his phone, then picked up the teacup again and took a sip. It has been a few years since we last met, Wushuang. Your harem has increased again. It is all thanks to master. If not, how would Wushuang be able to achieve what he has today? Tang Wushuang said sincerely. He was actually rather unfamiliar with his master. His master could be said to be an existence that came and went without a trace. Woman, you have indeed achieved something, but your authority did not change at all. Master is a bit disappointed. Gui Chungren put down the teacup and took out a stick of cigarette. Tang Wushuang immediately lit up the cigarette and said, Master, disciple has already reached this stage. Disciple is also powerless. It is too difficult for disciple to climb any further. With your current mentality, it would be good if you don't drop. Gui Chungren took a puff and said disdainfully. Tang Wushuang lowered his noble head and did not have any temper in front of his master. Master can poke me to death with just a finger. The reason why master came this time is to ask you why you didn't manage to seize the ancient godly item. The reason why master came this time is to ask you why you didn't seize the ancient godly item. Quan Anrong could be heard saying, Master, you can't blame Wushuang entirely. He called Yi Xiao over, but Yi Xiao didn't keep his promise and also. Anrong, don't speak. Tang Wushuang shouted in a low voice. Gui Chungren's gaze turned intent, and he slowly said, Wushuang, not only do you not have the drive to improve, but the women you teach are also lawless. Women shouldn't interrupt when men are talking. Quan Anrong's pretty face instantly collapsed. You two leave first. Tang Wushuang said gravely. Originally, I thought that by bringing the two of them by my side, they would be of some use. After all, their brains were very good, but I didn't expect that it would be like this. Mu Jia pulled Rong away quickly. Her husband's master was moody and very strange. He could even be so engrossed in reading novels. Master, they are not sensible, please don't be angry. Tang Wushuang fawned. Right now, in this kind of situation, he still needed his master's help. They don't know any better. And you don't know any better either. This woman has messed up your mind. Tang Wushuang hurriedly replied. Yes, 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 what teacher said is correct. Back then, I saved you on a whim, and taught you some cultivation techniques. You performed well in the past few years, but this year has disappointed me. When you go out, don't say that you are my disciple. Tang Wushuang lowered his head, and listened to his master's lecture. Gui Chengren let out a sigh of relief. The Nine-Devil Punishment Tower is in by family's hands? Hearing that master changed the topic, and it was an ancient godly item, Tang Wushuang felt that his hope was ignited again. As long as master is willing to make a move, then everything will go smoothly. That is indeed what the scout reported. After Wang Debao obtained the Nine-Devil Punishment Tower, he hurriedly rushed to Zijin City and went to Bai family. Gui Chengren paused for a moment. Right now, Bai family has an ancient godly item. Xiao family also has one, but you don't. Could it be that you still want master to help you snatch it? Disciple doesn't dare. The rules of aristocratic families cannot be changed. If you want to squeeze in, you have to snatch it. Which family do you think is easy to snatch? Gui Chengren asked faintly. Is there a need to ask? It is definitely Xiao family's Xinyuan sword. Xiao family, Tang Wushuang said gravely. Since you know it is Xiao family, why didn't you make a move? Gui Chengren asked back. Tang Wushuang still remembered their old relationship. After all, Xiaoyi had helped him quite a bit back then. Now, it is really hard to stab him in the back. When one is in a great position, one will slay a god, not to mention an individual. Disciple has learned his lesson. The living room instantly quietened down, and Tang Wushuang didn't even dare to breathe loudly. I heard that everyone died last night, and all of them were sucked dry? Gui Chengren suddenly asked. And the news just spread out, and the three major powers in the north also went missing. Gui Chengren said calmly. Seems like it was done by the person in the coffin. Master, you know about it. If I didn't guess wrongly, all of you fell into a trap. Gui Chengren laughed lightly, picked up the Snickers bar on the table, opened the packaging and slowly chewed on it. Tang Wushuang turned pale with fright, and he instantly understood something. Master, compared to this person, we are about the same. Tang Wushuang's heart sunk. Master actually has such a high evaluation of this person. Unimaginable. That's right. What is going on with that black robe? Gui Chengren continued to ask. Tang Wushuang told him the cause of the matter, and Gui Chengren fell into contemplation after listening to it. After a long time, Gui Chengren said faintly, this black robe isn't a big deal. The important point is the person behind him. But right now, everyone in the circle is saying that the black robe is the boss. Gui Chengren's gaze turned cold. I should have really killed all of those women of yours. Did your brain get clamped by women until you became stupid? You can't even see through this kind of scheme. But, Wushuang, let Master ask you a question. When have you seen Master make a move before? Tang Wushuang swallowed his saliva. Indeed, I have never seen Master make a move before. Never. A truly powerful person would not even spare a glance for ants. In his eyes, ants are merely dust. Gui Chengren said in a deep voice, as if he had met his match. Master is powerful like this. Tang Wushuang immediately bootlicked. As expected, it is useful. Gui Chengren leaned on the sofa, and with a deep gaze he said faintly, Master has a feeling that the dispute between the north and the south was planned by this bar. Wushuang, investigate this bar properly. Disciple understands, Master. Then who exactly is the boss of this bar? Gui Chengren let out a heavy sigh. If it isn't that boss, then it is that security guard. One of them is the mastermind behind the scenes. All right, Master is going to rest now. Master, do you want Disciple to make arrangements for you? It is better for you to keep those useless women for yourself. Don't forget to help Master tie up that author. If he doesn't write, I will break his legs. Chapter 163. In another place in Zijin City, it had lost its former glory and seemed very gloomy. At night, the entire mansion would be pitch black like a haunted house. This was the once glorious Xiao mansion. At this moment, Xiaoyi was sitting cross-legged in a secret room and cultivating. However, could his heart calm down? From his furrowed brows, it could be seen that he could not calm down. His beloved wife had died, but he did not even dare to hold a funeral. Her body was still sealed in ice. His son only knew that his mother had gone on a business trip. It had only been a few days, and he was already clamoring for his mother to come back. However, could she come back? She could not. Opening his eyes, Xiao Yi's eyes were bloodshot. The battle with the black-robed man had caused his blood to flow in reverse, and left behind a root that could not be removed. His beloved wife's death had damaged his heart and veins. With these kinds of injuries, there was no way he could recover, and he would not be able to hold on for long. However, he was dead. What about them? What about the children? His former enemies would turn their spears to them. Thinking about this, blood flowed out from the corner of Xiao Yi's mouth. He was beyond cure. Dragging his heavy body, Xiao Yi opened the door to the secret room. However, the moment he walked out, his slightly bent back straightened. He swallowed his bitterness to prevent the women from worrying. Enduring the chaotic spirit energy in his body, Xiao Yi came to the main hall. Who would have thought that all the women would be gathered together, as if they were having a meeting? Big brother Xiao, you came out of seclusion. Yuqi quickly went up to support him. Her stomach was already slightly bulging. Looking at Yuqi's stomach, Xiao Yi squeezed out a smile. Are you all right? And big brother Xiao, don't worry about us. We are fine. Yuqi supported Xiao Yi as they sat on the main seat. Shu Nan's face was calm as she walked to her husband's side and wanted to take his pulse. Xiao Yi knew what Shu Nan wanted to do, so he dodged. Not only was his seclusion useless, but his injuries had worsened. He did not want them to know about this. Even if they wanted to know, this was not the time. Shu Nan frowned and was very worried. The more her husband acted like this, the more serious his injuries were. What are you guys talking about? Xiao Yi tried to maintain a relaxed state. He had been in seclusion these past few days, and did not know about the outside world. Yuqi smiled and said, Nothing, it's just company matters. Do you need to do this to the company's matters? Just say it, no matter how big the matter is. It is already in the past. Xiao Yi laughed bitterly. If I can go back in time, I should learn from Wang Debao and return the money. He had thoroughly played out the phrase losing one's wife, and losing one's soldiers after losing one's wife. The girls looked at each other. Finally, Shu Nan told them what had happened these days. Wu Shuang is here to give money. Xiao Yi felt gratified. At least he hadn't made friends with this brother for nothing. Yuqi didn't understand it that way. Brother Xiao, when Wu Shuang came that day, you were already in seclusion, and he looked a little absent-minded. I don't think it was as simple as giving him money. Maybe he's worried about my injuries. Wu Shuang isn't as bad as the other families. Xiao Yi's voice wasn't strong and was very weak. The women did not continue to speak, lest they made their husbands angry. They had to take it slow, because the next matter would be even more serious. After a long time, Xiao Yi listened to everything and didn't have much of a reaction. Instead, he let out a sigh of relief. The heavens wanted my Xiao family to die. The women didn't say anything. They didn't want to continue to provoke their men. Yuqi said seriously, Brother Xiao, the Bai family might do something bad to us. We should plan ahead. Bai family? I'm afraid it's not just the Bai family. The Xian Yuan sword in my hand is a hot potato that everyone wants. Xiao Yi said coldly. If a tiger fell to the plains, it would be bullied by dogs. Brother Xiao, how about we hand over the sword and let them do whatever they want? Shu Nan's suggestion was probably what all the women were thinking. If the sword was gone, it was fine as long as the person was still alive. However, Xiao Yi didn't think so. If the sword was gone, it would only speed up the process of death. They didn't dare to do anything now, because they didn't know how injured they were. Once they found out, they would probably attack. The only thing they could do now was to use the Xian Yuan sword to exchange for their lives. Don't worry, I have plans. Xiao Yi smiled. If the sword couldn't exchange for their safety, Then he would exchange for his life. The women had blind trust in their husbands. They thought that Xiao Yi really had a good idea, so they were happy. Brother Xiao, let's eat first. Only when we are full will we have the strength to do things, Yu Qi said tenderly. Together with Xu Nan, she helped Xiao Yi to stand up. And Xu Nan took this opportunity to immediately check her husband's pulse. Her face that was originally still red immediately became pale like a piece of white paper. This kind of pulse is the sign of death. That's why the words I said just now were all lies. Brother Xiao is going to die. Xiao Yi took a look at Xu Nan. His meaning was very clear. He was telling her not to speak carelessly. The happy atmosphere on the dining table was no longer like it was in the past. Meanwhile, everyone in the bar started eating. Crayfish feast. Qingye was immediately stupefied. This is revenge for me for not serving him well during those few days. Not only is he a jealous king, he is also a miser. Wow, crayfish, Zizi loves it the most. Yi Zizi immediately wore her gloves. Yihua coughed lightly and hinted to Qingye. Qingye bit onto her lips and helplessly wore her gloves to peel the crayfish. After dipping the crayfish meat into the gravy, she placed it into her husband's bowl. Yihua was very satisfied. This crayfish meat is becoming more and more fragrant. Qing Yutong looked at the two of them, just going out for a trip, and they have already reconciled. This is really fast. Looking at big sister's expression, needless to say, brother-in-law definitely won. Brother-in-law, eat the crayfish. How could Qing Yutong let go of this time to flatter Yihua? If I want to have meat to eat, I have to flatter brother-in-law. Big brother, here, Zizi will peel the crayfish for you. Yi Zizi and Qing Yutong's mentality was not much different from each other. As for Yihua, he couldn't care so much about it. This is the treatment that a supreme overlord should enjoy comfortable. Yi Zizi, go to school half a month later and study, Yihua said faintly while eating the crayfish meat and drinking the ice Sprite. You are letting an old monster go to school. Aren't you afraid that she will eat all of the teachers in the school? As expected, upon hearing about going to school, Yi Zizi collapsed. Big brother, I don't want to go to school, I want to eat chicken. Yihua and Qingye's gaze immediately looked towards Qing Yutong. While Qing Yutong pretended not to hear anything and continued peeling the crayfish. Big sister, eat the crayfish. Brother-in-law, eat the crayfish. Qing Yutong, how can you lead a child astray? Qingye criticized harshly. It has only been a few hours, and you have already made an innocent and pure lowly degenerate to the point where she wants to eat chicken, without even going to school. Qing Yutong raised up both of her hands and said with grievance, brother-in-law, big sister, you really can't blame me for this. After finished speaking, Qing Yutong even pulled onto Yi Zizi's skirt. Big brother, big sister-in-law, you really can't blame big sister Qing. Big sister only told me how to operate the game, and also how to control the gun and snatch the airdrop. It was Zizi who got addicted to it. Yi Zizi said pitifully. Pooh. Chapter 164. Qingye glared angrily at her little sister and shouted out. Qing Yutong, it's fine if you degenerate yourself, but Zizi is still a child, and you are already bringing her to play games at such a young age? Are you going to bring her to the disco too? Yi Zizi's eyes lit up at the mention of disco dancing. This was something new. However, she remained silent and pretended not to hear anything. Qing Yutong felt wronged to death. This little troublemaker tricking me, and you are still pretending to be more pitiful than me. Sister, don't be angry. Eat some prawns to calm down. I have no appetite, Qingye said angrily, thinking about how after my child was born, I was led astray by this aunt of mine. I felt that my head was a bit giddy. Yihua, why don't you reprimand her? Qingye was not happy with herself scolding Qingye, and she even wanted to pull Yihua along to scold Qingye's little sister. Yihua knew Yi Zizi very well, and he said, I've already said it before, you will be responsible for yourself. Qing Yutong became happy. I didn't expect that brother-in-law would stand on my side this time. I am so happy. Yi Zizi, there's no room for discussion about the study, Yihua said faintly. The main thing was that he wanted to throw Yi Zizi into the school and properly get along with humans. Yihua wanted Yi Zizi to not always think about sucking on humans, and Yihua wanted Yi Zizi to know how to control herself. Just look at Wei Chang. He is able to control himself so well that he is even able to think. Seeing that his honor's attitude was so unyielding, Yi Zizi could only seek help from Qingya. Sister-in-law, Zizi, are you listening to sister-in-law? Qingya asked with a smile on her face. Yi Zizi nodded vigorously. She felt that there was hope. Then listen to your eldest cousin. Yi Zizi was speechless. Even if he pretended to be pitiful, he wouldn't be able to escape his fate of going to school. The thought of sitting with a group of human children made him want to eat them all up. Zizi, studying is pretty good. If you don't study, you won't even be able to find a job in the future. Qing Yutong patted onto Yi Zizi's head and began to add insult to injury. Yi Zizi pouted her small mouth, then began to peel the prawn pitifully. At that time, I will make a big fuss. Yi Zizi, don't think about useless things. Yihua still didn't know what Yi Zizi was thinking about and gave a warning. The family meeting ended here, and Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi breathed out a sigh of relief. They felt like when they were young, they had failed their exams and were being lectured by their parents. Qingya, didn't you say that you are going to take wedding photos? Hurry up and decide, in case you say that it doesn't look good when you pat me when I have a big stomach. Picking up the prawn meat that Qingya peeled, Yihua asked. Qingya pondered for a bit, then said, let's go to Sanya. The scenery there is pretty good. Furthermore, this time, we have only played for a day, so we will be able to play more if we go to Sanya. Why are we going so far away? Yihua asked while wrinkling his brows. There is a seascape over there. Long'an City is located inland, and there is only a river there. This time, we can also bring Yutong and Zizi along with us. Qingya felt that this method was feasible. Qing Yutong didn't want to go out and was planning to be a female otaku. Big sister, I am someone who wants to become a female streamer to earn money. Zizi also wants to eat chicken. No, you two have to go. One is the bridesmaid, and the other is the bridesmaid. It's decided. We'll set off tomorrow. The three of them exclaimed at the same time. Tomorrow? That's right. I will treat you all to a vacation, and I will pay for all of the expenses. Qingya was very forthright. Since Yihua agreed to it yesterday, he followed Qingya's wishes. Meanwhile, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi let out a heavy sigh. How good is it to stay at home? There is air conditioning, takeaway, and games. Why do we have to go out and suffer? After eating crayfish, Qingya joined the chicken dinner party. Yihua really didn't want to say anything. How did you teach them a lesson in the first place? And now, you are in cahoots with them. Where is your moral integrity? Because little Ali was online again. Yihua, who was bored, walked downstairs to see if the business had improved or not. However, when he went downstairs to take a look, other than his own attendants and security guards, there was no one else. How is this possible? Yihua waved his hand towards Wei Chang. Boss, what's the matter? Where is everyone? Yihua asked gravely. Wei Chang shook his head. I don't know either. A few months ago, this place was filled with people, and as long as I walked downstairs, all kinds of screams would be heard. But now, sighing, Yihua said, I am going out for a few days tomorrow. When I come back, I want to see this place filled with people. If not, I will deduct your salary. Boss, I still want to ask you for a raise in salary. Wei Chang said embarrassedly. So it turns out that finding a girlfriend costs so much, and now, I even have to pay more for gas. Yihua glared at Wei Chang. You still want to ask for a raise in salary? I am going to starve to death. Boss, there is a strong smell of stir-fried crayfish coming from your body. You still dare to talk back to me now? Subordinate doesn't dare. Wei Chang said hurriedly. Didn't I see that Zizi has returned? I am happy in my heart, so I am just being mischievous for a bit. How is the matter that I asked you to investigate? Yihua took out a cigarette and sat on the booth seat at the side. Wei Chang was slightly startled. I seem to have forgotten about it. I am still investigating. If there is really no other way, you can go and add fuel to the fire. The goal is to make them fight. The more miserable the better. Yes. After finished speaking, Yihua stood up and walked towards the outside. Boss, where are you going? Going outside to get some fresh air. Wei Chang replied. His Honor even learned how to take a walk after a meal. Seems like it won't be long before he goes to square dance. Thinking about it was just thinking about it. Right now, he still had to quickly contact Death Mage. Yi Chen took out his phone and gave Death Mage a call. After thinking for a bit, he hung up the phone. Death Mage, who was currently playing the game, went into a daze and hurriedly replied, Master, His Honor has ordered you to become a spy and investigate the movements of both the North and South. Wei Chang felt that this was exactly what His Honor meant. After all, only a spy would be able to gather a large amount of information, and this was how all spy dramas played out. Spy. Death Mage felt that he shouldn't be called Death Mage anymore, because the quest was no longer related to death. That's right, report to me every day. Your subordinate will obey your orders. After cutting off the connection, Death Mage let out a deep sigh. The missions that His Honor gave me are getting more and more difficult. How am I going to play games in the future? Biu. The sound of a max-leveled cannon rang out beside him. Sun Fong was also fishing with her phone in her hand. That serious look on her face made it seem like she was taking revenge. That's right, she was taking revenge. Since she couldn't beat him, she would use what he was best at to defeat him. But this fishing is too much of a scam. I don't even have money anymore. And even eating 3 meals a day is a problem for me. I might as well just return the house and get back the deposit. It is impossible for me to stay on the overpass, but going to the park is a pretty good choice. In any case, if I don't kill him in this lifetime, I swear that I am not a human. Death Mage immediately typed, then used his bone finger and tapped onto Sun Fong's shoulder. I have a way to earn money, do you want to do it? After looking at Death Mage's finger, Sun Fong's brows tightly wrinkled. Death Mage is definitely not doing anything good. But even if I don't have money, I can't defeat him. After thinking for a long time, I'll do it. GGG. Chapter 165. Death Mage already had a plan on how to complete His Honor's order. This is going to be a very different kind of spy job, and it is filled with blood and cruelty. I really like it. On the other side, Yihua took a stroll outside, and when he came back, there was an additional document bag in his hands. This document bag was sent over by Lai Gu, and inside the document bag was Yi Zizi's personal information. Right now, I don't even need to go and look for little Jiu. Lai Gu already has resources in his hands. Not bad, you are starting to have brains. Returning to the second floor, Yi Zizi could be heard shouting into the microphone, while Qingye and Qing Yutong were both silent. Auntie, you're such a noob. Little Ali's childish voice sounded from the headset. Yi Zizi was furious. Don't call me Auntie. But you are Auntie Qing's little sister. If I don't call you Auntie, what should I call you? Yi Zizi received 10,000 damage. Have you ever seen such a lowly auntie? Qingye and Qing Yutong smiled tenderly, but didn't say anything. When these two buffoons are placed together, they are simply capable of tearing apart the sky. Enduring the pain of being called auntie, Yi Zizi decided to defeat Ali with an overwhelming advantage in the game. Little Ali also seemed to know that compared to Yi Zizi, it was useless. Apart from these 4 people, the other 96 were suffering. Among them, more than 70 heads were split evenly between 2 people. There were also more than 20 who couldn't take it anymore and self-destructed. In the end, as soon as these 2 accounts appeared, all sorts of explosions would appear on the screen. This game couldn't be played anymore. When faced with 2 immortals, you could only kneel. I didn't expect that Yi Zizi would be so powerful. In the beginning, she was still very unfamiliar with the game, and after a few rounds, it was as if Yi Zizi was cheating. In a certain livestream room, there were countless bullet screens. Host, aren't you the Immortal Slayer King? Now that there are 2 celestial beings, streamer Celestial Bane please. Also begging streamer Celestial Bane. Host, please give the world a clean PUBG. On the screen, the host clutched his stomach with a pained expression. I'm really not in the best condition today. I have a stomachache. I'll go offline first. After saying that, the stream went dark. Celestial Bane? Cook me when the time comes. That was a revolver monster. and now there was a crossbow monster. Should I consider switching professions? The live stream was in chaos. The host actually ran away. Everyone stopped scolding the host. Maybe the host is really not feeling well. I'd be a fool to believe him. Two deities destroyed the balance of the game. And this streamer actually pretended to have a stomachache. Why don't you just say that you're on your period? I heard that my goddess, Yutong, is going to start a live stream and play PUBG. I'm going to watch my goddess. What's there to watch? Even Jade Dynasty can't do it without some skill. Let's go, let's go. I might as well watch the old woman play games. Unsubscribe, unsubscribe. Sorry for disturbing you. Looking at the bullet screen in the live stream room, the streamer felt very hurt. You all are asking too much. Do you think that Jade Dynasty is that easy? I'm done for. I'm done for. However, right now, Little Ali and Yeezy were killing each other in the game. Whoever didn't get a headshot would lose. In the end, it was all headshots. How the F***CK was he going to let people play? So what if he had a cheat? This was too much of a bully. The game company immediately checked and found that these two accounts were perfectly normal. Could it be that the latest cheat had appeared and all the technicians were called to work overtime? In the first place, there was no cheat, so how was it possible for them to check? In the end, those technicians didn't return home for an entire month, and they didn't even know that they were cuckolded. Yihua stood behind Yeezy and watched as she cheated with her instincts. However, he didn't expect that Ali would actually be able to fight to a draw with Yeezy. This little Ali is rather mysterious. Northwest Desert, this place was completely uninhabited. If an ordinary person were to walk on this desert, they would die within a few days and become the food of vultures. Under the moonlight, two people walked onto this desert. They wore cloaks and walked forward while bending their bodies. After a long time, the two people stopped their footsteps. One of them formed a seal with both hands, and a faint water ripple appeared in front of his body. Soon after, the two people stepped into the water ripple, and the desert returned to peace once again. The two people that stepped into the desert took off their cloaks and took a deep breath. One of them smiled and said, "The air in our voidless realm is still the best. The air in the secular world is poisonous." Of course, this voidless realm is under the protection of the ancient Eastern Emperor. To be able to become a member of Voidless Realm is also a supreme honor. That's right, if we are able to see the Empress once, we would have no regrets in this life. Soon after, the two people looked towards the tallest existence within the mountains, and their gazes were filled with endless worship and reverence. Soon after, the two people slowly kneeled down and bowed towards that person to show their respect. Looking at the entire Voidless Realm, it seemed as if the entire Voidless Realm was sitting above the layer of clouds, and the mountains were even floating above the layer of clouds. All of the buildings were located at the edge of the mountains, and on top of every mountain, there was a majestic palace, which symbolized the authority of the Voidless Realm. However, on the highest mountain peak, there was a majestic palace. The entire palace was engraved with majestic divine dragons, and each of the 8 dragons coiled around a white jade stone pillar. The 8 dragons had glaring eyes and sharp claws, scales and beards on their bodies, and the dragons had the power to uproot the mountains and rivers. In the sky above the palace, there was actually a waterfall, and the sound of the waterfall was high and low, just like the melody of a zither. Green trees intertwined with each other, and the chirping of cicadas and drums could be heard. It was as if one was at this place, quietly listening to the clear melody of a flowing spring and the green breeze of an ancient pagoda tree. The waterfall flowed along the channel that was dug out and flowed down the mountain, and just happened to fall onto the mountain below. The waterfall flowed into the layer of clouds, disappearing without a trace. At this moment, there were people gathering in the palaces of the various mountains. 8 elders landed in front of this majestic palace, then bowed their bodies and waited. In front of the palace stood 4 golden-robed and silver-armored imperial guards, and their entire bodies were emitting out faint killing intent. After a long time, one of the guards shouted out, "Enter." The 8 elders slightly straightened their bodies and walked into the palace. On the throne at the center of the palace, a woman with extraordinary aura could be seen sitting on it. On her head was a dragon phoenix golden crown, and her appearance was picturesque. Although her pair of eyes were beautiful, there was a layer of frost on them. The dragon-patterned purple robe that was worn on her body made the cold aura that she was emitting rise to a peak. This was a woman that even men would not be able to raise their heads. Her name was Donghuang Baiji. Subordinates kowtow to your majesty. The 8 elders bowed and greeted. Donghuang Baiji, who was sitting on the throne, had a calm expression on her face, and not a single ripple could be seen on her face. Donghuang Baiji slowly raised her hand. The 8 elders stood up and stood on both sides of the palace. Yuanda, what is the matter that requires us to discuss in the middle of the night? Donghuang Baiji asked faintly. A relatively short and small elder stood out, then cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, a demon has appeared in the secular world. That 9 demons punishing tower cannot be considered to be a demon, Donghuang Baiji said faintly, seemingly not placing the matter in her eyes at all. Chapter 166. Seeing that the Empress didn't say anything, Yuanda continued to speak. The disciples who just returned from the secular world reported that over 10,000 people had died in the fight for the ancient godly item this time, and there were still 1,000 people who went missing. Those several 10,000 people had all been sucked into dried corpses, and this must have been done by the coffin person. Donghuang Baiji took a faint glance at Yuanda, then said slowly, So what? Yuanda was shocked and quickly lowered his head. Not to mention that aristocratic families will be able to deal with this matter. This matter happened in the south, and it is not under our jurisdiction. If you have anything to say, just say it directly, don't beat around the bush. Donghuang Baiji said coldly, She is already so old and cunning. Could it be that she still doesn't know how to deal with this matter? It was necessary to make such a big fuss. The 8 subordinates lowered their heads and looked at each other, as if they had already discussed this beforehand. All of them knelt on the ground and said in unison, We hope that your majesty will think for the sake of the Donghuang bloodline, and give birth to a boy as soon as possible to inherit the Donghuang's inheritance. Donghuang Baiji did not get angry. Instead she laughed. I presume that the 2 of you have already found a husband for this empress. Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly. However, her eyes were emitting out fierce hostility. Among the 8 people, a slightly plump old man walked out. His name was Xing Han, and the beard on his chin was about to fall to the ground. He could even be used as a broom. Your Majesty, the inheritance of the bloodline is the law of the heavens, not to mention the bloodline of the Eastern Emperor. The bloodline of Nuwa is nowhere to be found, and the ancient bloodline is even rarer. Although the other 2 families are not worthy of the surname Eastern Emperor. As long as your majesty gives birth to a male child and inherits the inheritance of the Eastern Emperor, the Eastern Emperor clan will once again achieve glory. As he spoke, Xing Han knelt down again. When the others saw Xing Han kneeling down, they also knelt down. Donghuang Baiji, who was sitting on the throne, did not say anything. Xing Han continued, The aristocratic families in the north are controlled by us, Donghuang, while the aristocratic families in the south are controlled by the Ji family. Although the Ying family lives in the south, they don't care about worldly affairs. I feel that the Ying family is the best choice. After a short pause, Xing Han continued, The second son of the Ying family, Ying Kongshi, is talented and virtuous. He's also quite handsome. He's the best candidate for the Empress's husband. Are you done? Donghuang Baiji asked faintly. Empress, all of you can leave. Donghuang Baiji waved her hand and stood up. Yuanda immediately rushed out. This subordinate has something to report. It's about Long and City's Qing bar. Donghuang Baiji's body trembled, and in an instant, all sorts of emotions appeared on her face. The 8 subordinates of Donghuang Baiji had their heads lowered in hesitation, and they did not notice the complicated changes that were happening to Donghuang Baiji. A small leisure bar is of no importance to me. Donghuang Baiji placed her hands behind her back and prepared to leave. Yuanda hurriedly shouted out, Your Majesty, the conflict between the north and the south this time was caused by this leisure bar's owner. His name is Yi Hua. So he is called Yi Hua. This cruel man was called Yi Hua. Because his back was turned, the 8 subordinates couldn't see his angry and ferocious face. However, everyone else was looking at Yuanda. Why did he bring such a small matter up? Yuanda ignored him and continued. This man has a wife. Her name is Qingya, and she is pregnant. Every single word that Yuanda said was like a sharp blade, stabbing into the weakest part of Dong Huang Baiji's heart. He had a wife. With child. Then what does that make me? Dong Huang Baiji's memories instantly returned to 3 years ago. The situation on that day was more or less the same as today. Just that back then, her father was sitting on the throne, and on the second day, she ran away from the throne, and on the second day, she met with the owner of the leisure bar. She, who was in an extremely bad mood, was convinced by the owner of the leisure bar, and ended up having sex with the owner of the bar. But when he heard that it was his first time, he felt a little better. He even said that he wouldn't touch the same woman twice, and told him not to look for him. At that time he laughed. Did he really think he was a god? He was the most narcissistic person he had ever met. After playing around in the secular world for half a month, Yi Hua returned to Voidless Realm. Yi Hua didn't expect that her father would fall sick, and at that time, she was rather worried. However, the sage doctor who was taking a look at her father's illness was actually able to tell that she was pregnant. How is this possible? However, after the diagnosis, she was dumbfounded. She was really pregnant. She didn't even need to think to know whose child it was. At that time, her father flew into a rage, and his illness worsened. Everyone advised her to abort the child. This was a disgrace to the Donghuang bloodline. However, he could not bear to do so. This was a life. After resisting for a month, she couldn't take it anymore, and running away was the only choice she had. But where could she run to? At that time, there was only one place that appeared in her mind, and that was Leisure Bar. When she was at that time, she was still thinking about some beautiful things. Although it was an accident, she was able to get to know the other half of her life. However, she never expected that she would wait day after day. Every night, she would see Leisure Bar closing its doors. She would even raise her head to look at the room on the second floor where the lights were still on. Why is it that when you are just a few meters away from me, you aren't willing to come down and take a look at me? Disappointment after disappointment caused her heart to become disheartened. After half a month, when she returned, her father had already left. That day was the darkest day of her life. It was as if she felt that the entire world was abandoning her, and she even thought of committing suicide to end her life. However, when she thought about her child, she endured it. Her child looked a lot like him. Every time she saw her daughter, she would think of that heartless man. What was laughable was that, right now, he had married a woman, and was even pregnant. To only touch the same woman once, how laughable was that? To think that I actually believed it. Why were you so heartless when I was pregnant? But you were able to marry this woman. Yuanda. Dong Huang Baiji called out faintly. Just that. Her tone was so oppressive that it made people tremble in fear. Subordinate is here. Regarding the matter of going to Ying family to propose marriage, I'll leave it to you. I'll marry her. After finished speaking, Dong Huang Baiji left with her hands behind her back. The 7 people in the palace still hadn't reacted to what just happened, and only Yuanda let out a sigh of relief. It's finally settled. Hey, what's going on? Why did Her Majesty suddenly agree to it? Xinghan walked over and asked curiously. Yuanda laughed lightly. Her Majesty has been thinking about a person. As long as that person is removed from her mind, there wouldn't be anything for her to think about anymore. The 7 people went into a daze and began to admire Yuanda. They didn't expect that Yuanda would be able to find out about what happened back then. Everyone, keep this matter a secret. It concerns the reputation of the Donghuang family, Yuanda said with a smile, then left the palace with everyone else. Donghuang Baiji didn't return to her room. She sat in the garden and stared blankly at the stars in the sky. Her pair of delicate hands were clenched so tightly that her nails had pierced into her palms, causing her palms to be devoid of blood. After a long while, Donghuang Baiji walked towards her daughter's room. Before she even got close to her daughter's room, she could hear the sound of someone tapping on a keyboard. Dong Huang Baiji's expression immediately became cold as she fiercely pushed open the door and entered the room. Dong Huang Li, who was currently playing a game, was startled. She hurriedly turned off her computer, then lowered her head, and stood obediently at the side. Kneel down. Dong Huang Li took down her keyboard, then with a plop sound, knelt down onto the keyboard. I feel that my mother is acting rather abnormally today. I have to be a bit more careful. Dong Huang Baiji walked towards the front of the computer and stretched out her palm. Noiselessly, the monitor and the computer turned into dust and floated out of the window. Dong Huang Li looked at the screen stupidly. This is the only thing that I have that can come into contact with the outside world, and my mother destroyed it. Chapter 167. Sitting on her daughter's bed, Dong Huang Baiji caressed the bedsheet. Looking at her daughter, who was crying softly, Dong Huang Baiji's eyes couldn't help but turn red. Your heartless father is a liar. Dong Huang Li wiped away her tears, and when she saw that her mother's eyes were red, she couldn't help but stand up and throw herself into her mother's embrace. Mother, don't cry. Ali won't play games anymore in the future. I promise that I will study diligently every day and learn martial techniques. Dong Huang Li hugged onto her mother's waist and made a vow with her childish voice. Dong Huang Baiji lightly hugged onto her daughter. Dong Huang Baiji is the closest person to me. However, the person she hated the most was Yi Hua. The funny thing was that he was still waiting, but this was the result. Yi Hua, since you are heartless, then don't blame me for being heartless. Second floor of leisure bar. Ali got disconnected. Qing Yutong cried out in surprise. Yi Zizi was overjoyed and said happily, little brat finally disconnected. Wait for me to execute her and lick her. Zizi, wait a moment. Perhaps Ali will come online soon. Qingya hurriedly said. Qing Yutong rubbed onto her chin and speculated. I feel that Ali's mother has appeared, and Ali might be kneeling on the keyboard right now. Her mother is really something. How could she bear to let a child kneel on the keyboard? Qingya sighed. If it was her own child, she would definitely not bear to let her child kneel on the keyboard. Yi Hua stood up and said faintly, Qingya, it is getting late, time to sleep. Oh. Qingya dragged out her last syllable and unwillingly followed behind Yi Hua. After the two of them left, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi looked at each other. Qing Yutong's eyebrows twitched. Yi Zizi understood immediately. The two of them immediately changed their clothes. Yi Zizi loved cosplay. She had bought quite a lot of cosplay online this afternoon. There were dark, girly, sweet, and all kinds of cosplay styles. Delivery within the same city was really fast. Yi Hua returned to the bedroom and said to Qingya, change the quilt and bed sheet. Why? Isn't it clean? Qingya asked curiously. I don't like people who have slept with other people before. Yi Hua snorted and sat at the side. Qingya was confused. What do you mean by someone else slept on this bed before? Other than us, is there someone else that slept on this bed before? Suddenly, Qingya seemed to have thought of something. Isn't it just a doll? I'm really impressed. Hurry up. Alright, I'll change. Qingya said petulantly. After changing into a new blanket and bed sheet, Qingya let out a sigh of relief. Great sir, are you satisfied now? Yi Hua took a look. Other than me, if you put anything else on the bed in the future, see if I don't beat you up. Bzz, I'm going to take a bath. After saying that, Qingya walked into the bathroom while humming a tune. Yi Hua twisted his neck, then changed into his pajamas and lied on the bed. For me, the supreme overlord, to let you hug me to sleep. Just how great of a fortune are you? Not long after, Qingya walked out of the bathroom. Seems like she had a nice bath. Seeing that Yi Hua was already lying on the bed, she asked, aren't you going to take a bath? I washed them when I came back. Quickly go and take another shower. Qingya pulled onto Yi Hua's hand and pulled Yi Hua up. Yi Hua wrinkled his brows. Are you sick? Qingya sniffed. Is such a big smell of smoke, let's quickly go. Yi Hua sighed. This woman is truly annoying. 5 minutes later, Yi Hua walked out of the bathroom, and Qingya, who was on the bed, who was currently booking a plane ticket, went into a daze. So fast? Yi Hua did not say anything. After lying on the bed, He hugged onto Chinya. Chinya's face turned red. Recently, this fellow is becoming more and more shameless. In the past, I wished that I could stay far away from him. But now, I wish that I could stick onto him 24 hours a day. However, lying in Yihua's embrace felt really comfortable and gave me a sense of security. It was as if even if the sky were to collapse, Yihua would be there to hold it up. And furthermore, it was the kind that would be extremely easy. This blanket is too short, Yihua said gravely. Chinya, who was in his embrace, was startled. This fellow actually knows how to speak sweet words. Did the sun rise from the west today? Annoying, Chinya bashfully punched onto Yihua. We are already an old couple. Yet you are still so flirtatious, big baddie. Yihua did not know what this woman was doing and continued. This blanket is too short. I know. I will still be together with you in my next life. Yihua was stupefied by this woman's IQ. What I am saying is that this blanket is too short. Blanket. Blanket. In order to emphasize, Yihua's exposed legs even trembled a little. Chinya seemed as if she had eaten a fly, and the corner of her mouth twitched slightly. I thought that Yihua was saying that this lifetime is too short, but I didn't expect that he was talking about a blanket. Yihua slowly lifted up Chinya's blushing face and said faintly, "You are very greedy, to actually want my next life. Go and die, who wants your next life?" Chinya directly buried herself in Yihua's arms. This is too embarrassing. Yihua laughed lightly and held onto his head of hair. The days are gradually not that boring anymore. Not knowing how much time had passed, Chinya suddenly asked, "Are you asleep?" And Yihua responded, "I am so excited that I can't sleep." Upon thinking that they were going to take wedding photos soon, Chinya started fantasizing about what would look good on her, what would look good on Yihua. Yihua hugged onto Chinya's shoulders and said faintly, "You will naturally be able to sleep when your heart is calm." "Yihua, let me count the sheep." "Childish. Come on, I want to sleep." Chinya continued. "Let me start." "1 sheep," Chinya said with her eyes closed. 2 sheep, Yihua said helplessly. 3 sheep. 4 sheep. Beautiful sheep. Lazy. Lamb. Chinya mumbled. Roasted lamb. Yihua wrinkled his brows. Lamb hot pot. Spicy lamb hot pot. Speaking until here, the two immediately opened their eyes. Chinya pouted her mouth and rubbed onto her stomach. "Hubby, I am hungry." "I am a little hungry too." Yihua was originally not hungry, but as he spoke, he started to feel hungry. What is more important than eating? The two put on their pajamas and directly went out. However, right when they opened the door, they saw the 2 thieves. "What are you 2 doing?" Yihua shouted out. Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi could be seen bending their bodies and walking with small steps. This is not the main point. The main point is their dressing? Chuin? Chinya asked curiously. "What are the 2 of you dressing up like this for in the middle of the night? To scare people?" Qin Yutong immediately reacted and said, "Zizi said that she didn't eat her fill at night, so I brought her out to eat supper." "Just nice, we are going out too, let's go together." Chinya shook her head helplessly. Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi immediately collapsed. They originally wanted to go out to dance disco, but in the end, before they even reached the staircase, they bumped into Yihua, who was going out. How can we be so unlucky? It was still that King Song Mansion's hot pot restaurant. The main point was that it was only a few steps away. Chapter 168. Even though it was late at night, at least half of the customers in the King Song Residence's hot pot restaurant were still seated. From the looks of it, most of them were unable to sleep and were here to eat supper. There were even a few who came out in their pajamas. The moment the 4 of them entered through the door, they attracted the attention of everyone. With this kind of combination, it was impossible for them to not attract the attention of everyone. Especially for Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi, they were definitely 2 Lolitas. That small skirt coupled with black stockings, it was simply enough to make people spurt out blood. There was no need to talk about Qin Yutong. Her pair of slender legs were enough to make people unable to take their eyes off her. But Yi Zizi was even more lethal. She was a little lowly. Minimum of 3 years, no upper limit. The few of them headed upstairs to the private room. Last time, they sat in the hall because there were no private rooms available. Those two people are here as well. Qing Yutong could be heard crying out in surprise. Yi Hua and Qing Yi looked over and saw a man and a woman talking and laughing while eating. Isn't this boy the one who was abandoned that day? And didn't that girl run away with the rich second generation? It had only been a few days, and they were already chatting and laughing together. The fire of gossip ignited within Qing Yutong's heart. Just that, she was stopped by Qing Yi. Why are you so concerned about other people's matters? Yi Zizi had a curious look on her face. However, when Yi Hua and the others were eating hot pot, Jiu Yi was currently at his own winery receiving a guest. No, it was another owner. At this moment, Lord Jiu was lying on the ground, and a black vortex appeared in front of him. Master, this lowly one has received news that Emperor Tsong is dead, but the cause of death is unknown. Lord Jiu said while trembling with fear. Although a powerful master had died, I, Lord Jiu, am lacking in other things, but I have a lot of masters. A deep voice came from the black vortex. So what if he's dead? I originally wanted him to kill a few more. Lord Jiu felt that it was not convenient for the owner of the black vortex to reveal himself. He was definitely a powerful person, and wanted to use someone else to do his dirty work. Go to Sanya tomorrow. Someone will tell you what to do. Yes. After finished speaking, the black whirlpool disappeared. Jiu Yi slowly stood up and let out a breath. For me to be able to get to my current position, I have to rely on the help of these masters. Just that, why did Emperor Tsong die just like that? Originally, I still have a lot of things that I need him to do. What a pity. Lord Jiu took out his 8848 titanium phone, opened WeChat, found someone and typed. Master, the black vortex wants me to go to Sanya tomorrow. After sending the message, Lord Jiu picked up a cigar, cut off one end, and leaned back comfortably on the sofa, waiting for the reply. Ding dong. Lord Jiu immediately checked the replies. Observe the situation and wait for my orders. Yes. Lord Jiu laughed. Why were these big shots killing each other for no reason? Luckily Lord Jiu had a good brain. But what was going to happen to Sanya? He was really curious. In a park in Longan City, it was pitch black here. However, there were two shadows sitting on a bench, flickering with a faint light. One could even hear them if one walked closer. Biu. They were the duo who had refunded their rent and came out to sleep in the park. They were probably the bitter duo. Death Mage and Sun Fong were holding onto their phones, and beside them was a power bank. Death Mage and Sun Fong were using all their strength to press on the screen, especially Sun Fong. It was as if she had a grudge against the screen. Suddenly, Death Mage's phone's battery was low. Death Mage picked up the battery pack and took a look at it. He immediately sent a WeChat message to Sun Fong. Looking at the WeChat message that Death Mage had sent over, Sun Fong sneered. You want to have a power bank? Go and die. You tricked me out and said you have a solution? Is this the solution? Sleep in the park. This scoundrel is just cheating me of my rent. Reply. Return the money. Death Mage immediately typed a reply. If you don't give me the power bank, how am I going to fish? If I don't fish, how am I going to return the money to you? It seemed to be quite reasonable, but Sun Fong wouldn't fall for it. She protected the power bank within her bosom. Return the money, return my life, return my innocence. Death Mage replied. Don't force me to make a move. Sun Fong wasn't afraid at all. Come and try. Death Mage could be seen placing his precious phone and power bank at the side, then directly pressed Sun Fong down on the bench. This scene was a bit erotic. You damn skeleton, let go of me, scoundrel. My entire body is hard. Sun Fong pressed onto Death Mage's sternum with both of her hands, and pushed with all her might. However, how could this little bit of strength be Death Mage's opponent? GGG. Imperial translation. Are you giving or not? Although Sun Fong didn't know what Death Mage was saying, she seemed to be able to feel it. Not giving, get lost. Death Mage could be seen grabbing towards the power bank, but his position seemed to be a bit off. The two seemed to have been paused. Death Mage felt that his hand was a bit soft, and he tried again. Sun Fong opened her beautiful eyes wide. My chest is actually being attacked by a skeleton. Shameless skeleton, I am going to kill you today. Sun Fong could be seen taking the initiative and pressing Death Mage down, and Death Mage reacted quickly and pressed his bone hand onto her chest. Sun Fong looked at the bone hand on her chest blankly, and her expression was terrifyingly gloomy. TSK. On a moonless night, to actually forcefully snatch a man, a demoness. Today, I, Do Fushir, will uphold justice on behalf of the heavens and save this innocent man. A young man who wore a yellow Taoist robe could be seen suddenly appearing. On his back was a peachwood sword, and on his hand was a talisman. Follow the law. Do Fushir threw out the yellow talisman, and it just so happened to be stuck onto Sun Fong's forehead. Right now, Sun Fong received 100,000 points of violence. Are you fucking blind? It just so happens that I don't have a place to vent my anger. Consider yourself unlucky. Sun Fong tore off the talisman on her forehead, and Do Fushir turned pale with fright. Demoness, you still have some skills. Watch how I am going to subdue you today. Subdue your sister. Sun Fong shot out explosively, and her body turned into a faint afterimage. Death Mage who sat up picked up Sun Fong's power bank and plugged it into his phone. Bayubiubiu. Do Fushir didn't expect that this malicious spirit would be so powerful. To actually not be afraid of any talismans, and to even be able to catch the peachwood sword with her bare hands. In any case, I have the ghost catching system, so how can I be beaten up by a malicious spirit? Plop. Big sister ghost, spare me. Sun Fong was currently in a berserk state, and everyone misunderstood that I had an affair with the skeleton. Even the Taoist priest thought that I was violating the skeleton. How can I not be angry? I'm going to fucking kill you. The resentment in Sun Fong's heart was indeed not light. If not, why would Do Fushir treat Sun Fong as a ghost? Do Fushir looked at Sun Fong, who was incomparably sinister. I'm finished. It wasn't easy for me to obtain the system, and in less than a year, I'm going to die before I even have the chance to show off. However, after waiting for a long time, there was still no pain coming. Could it be that this is death? Let go of me. I'm going to kill this Taoist priest who is full of nonsense. Death Mage could be seen holding onto Sun Fong's waist with one hand, while Sun Fong was baring her fangs and brandishing her claws at Do Fushir. Do Fushir slowly raised his head. At this moment, the moonlight just happened to shine onto Death Mage's face, and Do Fushir's eyeballs were about to pop out. Chapter 169. Sun Fong, who had almost calmed down, was immediately lit up again. You damned Taoist, I'm going to hack you into pieces. Who's husband and wife with it? Are your dog eyes blind? Death Mage immediately typed a message with one hand, then showed it to Sun Fong. He seems to be quite rich. It won't be too late to kill him after we snatch his money. Sun Fong, who was so angry that her chest was heaving up and down, gradually calmed down and said in a sweet voice, Let me go. Death Mage let go of Sun Fong's willowy waist. I didn't expect that a human's waist would feel so good to the touch. It is soft and very comfortable. It's no wonder that both his honor and master have women. This is probably what his honor likes, right? Hugging Sun Fong at night feels very comfortable. Looking at Sun Fong, who was not far away from Death Mage seemed to have understood why his honor wanted Sun Fong to fall madly in love with him. So this is a reward for me. I am truly stupid. Only now did I understand his honor's painstaking efforts. I didn't expect that his honor would actually be so concerned about the private life of his subordinate. I am truly touched. Sun Fong walked up to Do Fushir and shouted, Hand over the money. Do Fushir thought that he was going to die, but he didn't expect that the evil ghost couple only wanted money. Sister Ghost, this is all I have. Do Fushir took out his empty wallet. There was only about 20 yuan in it. He was even poorer than her. Sun Fong kicked him. It seemed like she was very angry. Don't think that I don't know. Who still carries cash these days? WeChat transfer. Sun Fong shouted. F***ck me. Now, evil ghosts are in sync with the times. They're even using WeChat to commit robbery. He had underestimated this vengeful ghost's cultivation. Bastard. Hurry up and come over here. Sun Fong shouted towards Death Mage. However, Do Fusher, who was kneeling on the ground, was stunned. Are all ghosts so affectionate these days? Sister Gui, I'm just trying to make a living. There are fewer and fewer ghosts these days. They've all been captured by the big sections. I really don't have much money. Do Fusher begged bitterly. Humph. So you're an orphan. Stop quibbling and transfer the money. Orphan. Do Fusher's heart was bleeding. After adding him on WeChat, Sun Fong shouted, transfer 10,000 first. Now, even ghosts know that WeChat can only transfer 10,000 yuan a day. Death Mage happily accepted the 10,000 credits, then typed a few words, kill it. Sun Fong raised her hand. Big sister ghost, I can still transfer 10,000 tomorrow. Do Fusher immediately shouted. Who cared if it was useful or not? Staying alive was more important. Death Mage was overjoyed. However, Sun Fong didn't care so much. Only death could calm her heart. It was a money tree that could drop money every day. It would be a pity if it died. Death Mage hugged onto Sun Fong, who had gone berserk once again. However, Sun Fong's delicate hands had already fallen onto Death Mage's body. Do Fusher looked at the cracked ground beside him, and his back turned cold. Big brother Gui was the best, sister Gui was too cruel. Let me go, I want to kill him. Dead ghost, quickly let go of me. Sun Fong struggled within Death Mage's embrace as she scratched and bit at Death Mage. Death Mage let out a breath. This woman is truly insane. Seems like I have no choice but to use my trump card. As long as I use my trump card, I can guarantee that she will immediately faint. That is kiss of death. Death Mage gave out his second kiss in his life, and Sun Fong opened her beautiful eyes wide. Looking at the empty eye sockets in front of her, her eyes rolled and she fainted. Do Fusher slowly lowered his head. I am still a child. Big brother Gui, are you very short of money? Do Fusher asked. Death Mage, who was hugging onto Sun Fong, typed on his phone. Tell me. I just passed by a winery, and I heard that something big is going to happen in Sanya, and there is money to be made from it. Although Do Fusher didn't hear what Death Mage said, he roughly understood what Death Mage meant. Is there really such a thing? Death Mage typed and asked. In order to save my life, even if there isn't, I have to say that there is. Big brother Gui, how would I dare to lie to you? Death Mage thought for a bit. Since something big is going to happen, I will definitely be able to gather information. Furthermore, I will also be able to make money, so why not? If you dare to lie to me, you are dead for sure. Death Mage typed. With a wave of his hand, the three of them instantly disappeared from the park and appeared in Sanya. Death Mage truly comes and goes without a trace. Yi Hua is still waiting for the flight tomorrow. Right now, Yi Hua and the others had just finished eating supper and were returning home together. Hubby, I'm so full. Qingye held onto Yi Hua's arm and said sweetly. After the misunderstanding was solved, Qingye became like a little girl and liked to act cute in front of Yi Hua. Yi Hua patted onto Qingye's head. Who asked you to eat so much? So full. Zizi is also full. The two Chuin that were following behind Qingye held onto their waists and looked as if they were going to die from bloating. These are the three foodies. Of course, the one who looks good is called a foodie. The one who looks ugly is called a rice bucket. Returning back to the bedroom, Qingye, who had eaten and drank to her heart's content, instantly fell asleep. She was the kind that wouldn't wake up even if you shouted at her. Early morning. The weather today was not bad. The sun was not very big, suitable for going out for a trip. Yi Hua opened his eyes and looked at his chest. Seems like Qingye's drooling problem is finally gone. Wake up. Raising his hand, Yi Hua lightly patted Qingye. Wake up. No, it is still early now. Our flight is at noon. I will buy breakfast for you. Yi Hua was a man who kept his promise. Since he had promised, he would definitely fulfill it. Qingye hugged onto Yi Hua tightly. You are not allowed. I will buy breakfast for you later. Yi Hua had no choice but to carry Qingye and throw her into the washroom to let her sober up a bit. However, the sound of Qingye fighting Yi Hua to the death could be heard from the washroom. The result was, of course, Qingye was defeated. Big sister Qing, why are big cousin and the rest so noisy? Yi Zizi lied on the bed and asked in a daze. Qing Yutong had even more of a bad sleeping posture. The blanket was kicked off the bed as she muttered, "It will be fine once you get used to it." Oh. While smoking, Yihua walked out of leisure bar and arrived at the entrance of the alley. 2 pancakes, one of them with eggs and sausages. Yihua stood in front of the aunt and shouted. Upon hearing that, the aunt smiled and said, "Have you reconciled?" Yihua did not speak. "Stop pretending. What is there to be shy about? Coaxing your wife is a natural thing to do. Which eye of yours saw that I am pretending? Do you believe that I will not eat here anymore in the future?" The aunt who was making pancakes laughed and said, "You should smile more. What is the point of putting on a straight face every day, especially when facing your wife?" Preposterous logic. Yihua said indifferently. The aunt was not convinced, and a debate began. Qingye waited for a long time, and did not see Yihua return, and was a little worried. Thus, she ran to the entrance of the alley, and actually saw Yihua and the aunt arguing about something. "Yihua, you too?" Qingye walked over and asked curiously. Yihua stretched out his hand and hugged onto the aunt's shoulder, then said, "My wife, I will make the decision." The aunt was speechless. Just a few days ago, you two still looked like you were about to die. If not for aunt helping you, you two would not be able to reconcile so quickly. Next time, don't expect aunt to help you. Chapter 170. While eating the aunt's crepe, Yihua snorted. "If it wasn't for the fact that the crepe tastes good, I wouldn't have come here to buy it from you." Qingye didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she hit Yihua. "What are you doing? That aunt actually said that I'm afraid of my wife. Just thinking about it makes me angry." While biting on the crepe that the aunt made, Yihua scolded the aunt. In actuality, every time Yihua went to buy breakfast, the auntie would always sincerely tell Yihua about it. In the beginning, Yihua had the intention to kill Yihua, but at that time, Yihua endured it. After a few years had passed, Yihua had actually gotten used to it. If I don't listen to the auntie's nagging, I would feel like I am lacking something. Humph, isn't it good to be afraid of me? Qingye laughed. Yihua chuckled and walked into leisure bar. Stop right there. What do you mean by hee? Qingye stomped her feet, then took a bite of the Chinese jianbing. So fragrant. After returning to the second floor, everyone began to clean up their clothes. Yihua looked at the 3 women. Are they preparing to move or what? Especially Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi, these 2 big chests. The box was almost as tall as Yi Zizi. Qingye dragged her luggage out and looked at her sister and Zizi. Why did you 2 bring so many things? Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi looked at Qingye's suitcase, then looked at their own suitcase. Cousin-in-law, your suitcase is even bigger than Zizi's. Qingye rolled her eyes at Yihua, who was leaning against the door. Your big cousin's clothes are also stuffed inside. Big brother is even lazier than Zizi. Yihua glared at Yi Zizi, then said faintly, let's go. Qing Yutong cried out in surprise. Me and Zizi still haven't changed yet. Wait a moment for us. After finished speaking, Qing Yutong closed the door. When Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi appeared once again, the corner of Yihua and Qingye's mouth couldn't help but twitch. It is one thing for Yi Zizi to wear a princess dress and hold a small umbrella. But you, Qing Yutong, are already so big, and you are still wearing such a dress. The main point is still my face. Qingye's head was hurting. Sister, I have another set here. Do you want to change? Qing Yutong said elatedly. If it was only one person wearing it, it would be crazy. But if it was 2 people wearing it, 2 crazy people wearing it, at least there would be one companion. It would be best if big sister was dragged into the water. Then there would be 3 crazy people. Yi Zizi turned around and giggled. Eldest Biaoga, eldest cousin-in-law, is Zizi beautiful? It must be said that Yi Zizi was indeed extremely cute, and there was no problem with Qing Yutong dressing up like this. But walking on the street like this, is it really suitable? Sai, let's go. Qingye said dispiritedly. She felt as if she was bringing along 3 children, who were going out on a trip. Arriving at the airport, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi instantly became the focus of attention. Basically, everyone was looking at the 2 of them and taking all kinds of photos. Especially Yi Zizi, uncles love her the most. 9 out of 10 lolas are rich, And there's still one. Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi were very magnanimous, and they put on various kinds of poses. An airport was forcefully turned into a cosplay exhibition, and if it wasn't for Qingya dragging the two of them away, the two of them would definitely play for an entire day. Qingya finally knew why Yihua said that on that day. My heart is so tired, I have to be their nanny. When they arrived at the VIP waiting room, they finally stopped talking, but they were still discussing all kinds of clothes. Now you know that you have a headache. Yihua sat on the sofa and said faintly while looking at a magazine. Qingya let out a breath. I should have listened to Yihua back then. So tired, it's all master's fault. I am just a servant. Suddenly, an arrogant middle-aged man walked in from the door, but when he saw Yihua and the others, he immediately shrunk his head and slightly turned around. Xiaojiu, Qing Yutong shouted out. Jiuye's heart sunk. Why is it them again? Nothing good will come out of being together with them. However, I have already been discovered. If I were to leave just like this, sigh. Boss lady boss. Jiuyi smiled and walked forward. Yihua raised his head and took a look, then lowered his head and looked at the magazine again. He felt that some of the clothes in the magazine were very suitable for Qingya. Xiaojiu, where are you going? Qingya smiled slightly, completely different from the cold-faced CEO in the past. The power of love is just too great. Jiuyi felt very bitter in his heart. Please don't go to the same place. Lady boss, I am preparing to go to Sanya. You are going to Sanya too, we are going too. Jiuyi. Other than laughing dryly, Jiuyi didn't know how to express his current mood. Jiuyi didn't dare to sit down. He poured a cup of water and stood at the side waiting. Suddenly, his phone rang. And when he took out his phone to take a look, it was actually his wife who called. What's the matter? Jiuyi asked lightly. A questioning voice could be heard coming out from the phone. Where did you go? Didn't I tell you last night? I am going to Sanya to settle some matters. Jiuyi slightly wrinkled his brows. This wife of mine is always letting her imagination run wild every day. Sanya. To attend the Ocean and Sky Banquet. Pft. F***K. You can even think of this. Why don't you go write a book? Are you sick? Jiuyi shouted lightly. The cup of water in his hand trembled, and the tea spilled onto his suit. A flight attendant could be seen slowly walking over and said delicately, Sir, your water is flowing out. Do you need me to clean it up? Jiuyi went into a daze, and the woman on the phone was also stunned. Soon after, Jiuyi exploded in anger. Gong Wei, you still dare to talk about going to Sanya? To actually look for a lady, if you have the ability, don't come back. Hearing the busy tone from the phone, Jiuyi went into a daze. However, the flight attendant also heard the voice from the phone. Sir, I'm sorry for causing trouble for you. Jiuyi sighed, then kept the 8848 titanium phone. It's fine. Sorry for disturbing you. I knew that nothing good would come out of meeting this couple. It hasn't even been a minute, and my wife is going to divorce. After waiting for half an hour, Yihua and the others boarded the plane. The plane that they bought was, of course, a business class seat. After Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi boarded the plane, they immediately went to sleep. However, Yi Zizi was lying on Qing Yutong's body as she slept. They definitely looked like mother and daughter. Meanwhile, Qingya was lying on Yihua's body, quietly enjoying the moment of tranquility. Jiuyi was just sitting at the side, but he still couldn't let go of himself. This is truly depressing. Suddenly, a flight attendant walked over. Jiuyi raised his head and took a look, and it was actually that flight attendant from just now. Sir, it's not good for your water stain to stick to your clothes. Let me help you clean it up. The flight attendant slightly bowed her body. Jiuyi was an experienced person, and he immediately understood what this flight attendant meant. Interesting. Since you want to help me clean it up so much, I will help you clean it up then. Where are we going? Sir, follow me. There is a place to change clothes here. The so-called place to change clothes was the washroom, and when Jiuyi walked out of the washroom had indeed been cleaned up. After flying for 1.5 hours, they finally arrived at Sanya International Airport. Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi were holding onto a small umbrella, and they had a sleepy look on their face, making them look very lovable. Boss lady boss, where are you two staying? I will send you two there. Jiu Yi said courteously, feeling that he could finally get rid of them. Chapter 171. That's too much trouble for you. Qinya also appeared to be very polite. It's no trouble at all. Then let's go to the Three Seasons Hotel. Lord Jiu, why? Why are we even staying in the same hotel? Why does the heavens have to target me, Jiu Yi? I really want to stay in another hotel. But master has already instructed me to stay in this hotel and wait for orders. Big cousin, Zizi can't walk anymore. Hug me. Yi Zizi rubbed her hazy eyes and stretched out her arms. Yihua let out a sigh. This fellow is truly too lazy. Just as Yi Zizi was about to carry Yi Zizi, Qinya was faster than Yi Zizi. Yihua was speechless. Yi Zizi could be seen hugging onto Qinya's white neck, and immediately fell asleep. Yi Zizi was famous for being lazy. When she was bored, she would sleep, and it was the kind of sleep that lasted only seconds. The longest time she slept was several months. The Three Seasons Hotel was located by the sea. Its location was excellent, and it was a 5-star hotel with complete facilities. One could face the sea when they woke up in the morning. This feeling was very comfortable, but the price was not cheap. After arriving at the hotel, Yi Zizi was once again full of energy, and was chattering nonstop with Qin Yutong. Without thinking too much, these two were definitely discussing to do something bad. There were a lot of people going in and out of the Three Seasons Hotel, causing Qinya to be a bit puzzled. Although it is currently the tourist season, the number of people here is a bit too much, right? Yihua felt that these people weren't ordinary people, and he was rather curious in his heart. What are so many people gathering here for? Shouldn't they be discussing about going to the north to snatch the ancient godly item? After Jiu Yi arrived at the hotel, he hurriedly took his leave. Although I really want to hug onto this thigh, but I feel that this thigh is very dangerous, even more dangerous than those masters. The main thing is that Jiu Yi doesn't have any confidence in his heart. This boss doesn't play his cards according to common sense. And furthermore, I can't see through him. Fortunately, I booked a room yesterday. Qinya said with a light smile. Yi Zizi, who was at the side, was holding a small umbrella and licking her lips. There was so much delicious food in front of her. She almost couldn't hold it in anymore. Qin Yutong also held onto the small umbrella and acted cute. After poking Yi Zizi, Qin Yutong's eyebrows twitched. Yi Zizi immediately understood and raised his eyebrows. It seemed like the two of them didn't even need to talk to communicate anymore. They could only use their eyebrows. After taking the room card, everyone went upstairs to rest. Qinya decided to start taking the wedding photos tomorrow, then properly accompany Yihua to have a good rest and treat it as a honeymoon. While Yihua was currently on vacation happily, little Ali, who was far away in Voidless Realm, wasn't so lucky. He finished his homework in the morning, ate his lunch, and practiced his swordsmanship in the afternoon. Right now, Dong Huangli was brandishing a sword that was even longer than Dong Huangli. Dong Huangli's face was covered with sweat, but Dong Huangli didn't complain about it. Dong Huangli's eyes were filled with determination. I will definitely not disappoint my mother. When my mother sees my achievements, she will definitely be happy and reveal a smile on her face, and not frown all day long. Soft shouts rang out in the side courtyard, and the female attendants in the surroundings felt extremely distressed. Such a young child, under normal circumstances, would act like a spoiled child by her mother's side. Just because she was the Empress's child, did she have to work so hard? Your Highness, please take a rest, one of the maids said with a pained heart. Dong Huangli could be heard saying, "There's no need for that. Mother will definitely be happy to see how hardworking Ali is." The maid let out a light sigh. The Empress is very busy every single day, and she can only come over to see little His Highness at night. Dong Huangli repeatedly practiced the sword technique that her mother taught her, and her sweat had already drenched her clothes. Not knowing how long had passed, Dong Huangli kept her sword and looked towards her mother's bedroom. The bedroom is clearly right in front of me, but I can't go over. Your Highness, please take a rest. The maid brought over a cup of tea and said with concern, Ali misses mother. Dong Huangli didn't take the cup of tea and said in a daze. The maid was a bit flustered and immediately knelt in front of Dong Huangli. Your Highness, the Empress has given the order. Your Highness is not allowed to walk out of this side courtyard without permission. How could Dong Huangli not know about this? Dong Huangli let out a light breath. Big Sister Ping, it's all Ali's fault. I made you all follow Ali and live here. Perhaps Ali shouldn't even exist in this world. Dong Huangli slowly squatted down and hugged onto her legs. From the moment Dong Huangli was born until now, she had never left this side courtyard. Other than those 8 elders, no one knew that the Empress had a daughter. Even the maids that were serving the Empress were not allowed to step out of the side courtyard. Of course, there were also the Empress's imperial guards that were stationed at the entrance of the side courtyard. These maids had watched Dong Huangli grow up day by day. However, the more they watched Dong Huangli grow up, the more their hearts ached. The Empress is too heartless. However, Dong Huangbaiji had her own difficulties as well. Ali's birth was unknown, and if this matter were to be spread out, the consequences would be unthinkable. It might even implicate the entire voidless realm. In this world, which mother would be willing to lock their child up? Your Highness. The maid lightly hugged onto Dong Huangli and comforted her. Let's go back to our room. Dong Huangli took another look at her mother's bedroom, then dragged her petite back into the room. The 3 maids immediately went to prepare hot water and food. After eating dinner by herself, Dong Huangli sat in front of the window and looked at the stars. Dong Huangli was already used to it. Originally, there was a computer that allowed me to interact with the outside world. But right now, I don't even have a computer anymore. I can only continue to be in a daze and wait for my mother to come over. I should be able to sleep after hugging my mother. I should be able to have a good dream, right? I should be able to dream that my mother will bring me to sit on a pirate ship, eat ice cream, and eat McDonald's. Just thinking about it makes me happy. Dong Huangli waited for an unknown amount of time. Dong Huangli turned her head around and looked at the door. Mother still hasn't come over. Dong Huangli stood up and walked to the door. It was very quiet outside the door. Dong Huangli wrinkled her brows, then walked to the door of the courtyard with small steps. From the crack of the door, she saw that there was someone standing outside the courtyard. Dong Huangli was a bit disappointed. She turned around and walked towards the courtyard. If only I am able to pass through the wall. What is my mother doing right now? Suddenly, Dong Huangli's petite body disappeared from the courtyard, and when she reappeared, she was already outside the wall. Dong Huangli was badly frightened by herself. Looking at the guards that were tens of meters away, Dong Huangli immediately ran to the corner and covered her mouth. Wasn't I inside the courtyard just now? Why did I come out? Also, my head feels so dizzy, I am seeing double. After a long while, Dong Huangli finally came back to her senses. Originally, Dong Huangli wanted to go back to the courtyard, but when she saw her mother's bedroom, Dong Huangli wanted to hug her mother before going back to sleep. Since Dong Huangli had already decided, she walked towards her mother's bedroom. This was the first time that Dong Huangli walked outside of her mother's bedroom. Every single grass and every single tree was able to arouse Dong Huangli's curiosity. Unknowingly, Dong Huangli felt very happy. Soon, Dong Huangli arrived outside of her mother's bedroom. Dong Huangli muttered, "There are so many guards. If only I could go in like how I did just now." Dong Huangli immediately appeared inside the bedroom. However, Dong Huangli was currently holding onto her head, looking like she was about to faint. However, when Dong Huangli saw that the bedroom was right in front of her, Dong Huangli became very excited. The lights in the bedroom are still lit. Mother should still be dealing with some matters. Dong Huangli felt that she should go and pour a cup of water for her mother to drink and tell her mother to rest early. Chapter 172. Before even reaching the entrance of the palace, Dong Huangli could already hear the voices of people talking inside. Seems like my mother is still busy. I'll just wait here and not disturb my mother. Within the palace, Dong Huangbaiji was sitting on a purple gold chair while sipping on a cup of tea. Below her, There were two elders, Yuan Da and Xing Han. Your Majesty, Ying family has already received our message and agreed to it without any hesitation. Yuan Da had a joyous look on his face. The marriage with Ying family was a win-win situation. If the Empress is able to give birth to a baby boy, there won't be three big powers anymore. There will only be one big power. Xing Han said gravely. Your Majesty, Ji family seems to be doing something. It seems like they want to destroy the marriage. Yuan Da snorted coldly. Do you think that Ji family can contend against two big families? They are truly overestimating themselves. This marriage is related to the change of the entire situation. The aristocratic families and the big sects are getting restless. Xing Han was a bit worried. Although the marriage was good, a lot of people didn't want to see this kind of marriage, especially Ji family. Donghuang Baiji placed her right hand on her chin and asked faintly, what is the reaction of the aristocratic families in the north? Yuan Da paused for a moment, then said with a frown, the 5 aristocratic families have sent their reports, 3 congratulate and 2 oppose. What is the reason for the opposition? Donghuang Baiji asked calmly. Yuan Da and Xing Han looked at each other. Then Xing Han said gravely, Your Majesty is noble and holy. How can a mortal be worthy of the Empress? Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly, but she didn't say anything. After a while, Donghuang Baiji asked, what is the situation inside Ying family? Ying family's eldest young master seems to be a bit unhappy after receiving the news, and the second young master, Ying Kongshi, is holding a banquet in Sanya. Xing Han said with a smile. Donghuang Baiji said calmly, he is happy. Of course, being able to marry the Empress is his good fortune. Furthermore, the betrothal gifts are still being prepared, and we will be able to set off tomorrow morning. Bang! A clear and melodious sound interrupted everyone's conversation. Yuan Da and Xing Han's expression darkened, and they immediately disappeared from where they stood and appeared outside of the palace. When they saw Dong Huangli, who had a surprised look on her face, they immediately paid their respects. Your Majesty. Donghuang Baiji walked out slowly, looking at the teacup that was knocked over and her daughter who was still in a daze. Donghuang Baiji said, regarding the betrothal gifts, I'll leave it to you two. Go and check if anyone has seen Ali. If there is, you two should know what to do. Yes. Yes. Donghuang Baiji carried on to her absent-minded daughter, then disappeared from the bedroom and appeared in a small house within the courtyard. Lightly placing down her daughter, Donghuang Baiji said gravely, kneel down. Donghuang Li stood there foolishly. Her entire head was completely stupefied. Mother is actually going to marry someone else? Mother doesn't want me anymore, and doesn't want father anymore. Kneel down. Donghuang Baiji shouted out in a low voice. It is fortunate that I did not make a huge mistake tonight. However, I was truly too mischievous. Donghuang Li could be heard saying, I won't kneel. I dare you to say it one more time. Donghuang Baiji looked at her daughter in disbelief. She actually dares to talk back to me. I won't kneel, I hate mother. Donghuang Li's body trembled, and 2 streams of tears flowed out from her eyes. Donghuang Baiji's expression immediately changed as she raised her hand up high. However, Donghuang Li did not have the slightest bit of fear as she looked at her mother, who seemed unfamiliar to her. In the end, Donghuang Baiji didn't manage to slap Donghuang Baiji. Donghuang Baiji retracted her hand. Ali, why do you hate mother? Is it because mother locked you up in here? Donghuang Li questioned her mother like a little adult. Mother, you are being disrespectful to father. Your father is already dead. Why should I be disrespectful to him? In any case, if mother were to marry another man, it would be disrespectful to father. Furthermore, if mother were to give birth to another baby, she would definitely not want Ali anymore. Upon thinking that her mother would never come back to her house again, Donghuang Li cried even louder. Donghuang Baiji let out a sigh and prepared to carry her stubborn daughter. However, who knew that Donghuang Li would not allow her to carry her daughter, and struggled free from her mother's embrace. Ali, you don't have to worry about adults' matters. You just have to do your homework. Donghuang Li could be seen kneeling onto the ground and begging, Mother, can you not marry another man? Is it because Ali is not good enough? Ali can sleep a few hours less in the future. As long as mother is happy, Ali is willing to do anything. Dong Huang Baiji's expression changed, however. She gradually regained her calmness and said, "Go and rest early." After finished speaking, Dong Huang Baiji walked out of the house. However, when Dong Huang Baiji closed the door, a stream of tears flowed out from her eyes. However, very quickly, the tears evaporated, and the delicate look on her face disappeared. Ali, who was inside the house, sat powerlessly on the ground. Mother doesn't want me anymore. Within the Three Seasons Hotel, Yi Hua had already fallen asleep while hugging onto Qingya, and Qingya, who was sleeping, had a smile on her face. I reckon that she was having a good dream. In another room, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi began changing their clothes again. Big sister Qing, what clothes are we going to wear tonight? The uniform is still 2D, and it is still the maid uniform. Yi Zizi flipped through her suitcase, and inside the suitcase, there were all beautiful and cute clothes. Qing Yutong took out a set of nurse uniform, then revealed out an evil smile. Zizi, how about this set of mine? Awesome. Then what should I wear to go to the disco dance? Yi Zizi said dispiritedly. Big sister will help you choose. This lowly version of the teacher uniform is quite cute. Wow, big sister Qing's eyes sure are good. It is the same as what Zizi was thinking. Yi Zizi hugged onto the clothes, seemingly like they were treasures. Change into the clothes, let's go. Go. Not long after, the two changed into the uniforms. There was no need to talk about Qing Yutong. She wore a little white cap, matched with the nurse uniform, and added with white stockings. She was simply able to make people's blood spurt out. However, if Qingya were to see her little sister's appearance, she would definitely pick up a kitchen knife and chase after her. Because right now, Qing Yutong still looked like her big sister. The lowly version of the teacher uniform on Yi Zizi was even more incredible. Especially those two ponytails. Yi Zizi really wanted to grab onto one with each of her hands. Damn, Zizi, you are too cute. Let big sister kiss you. Don't want. I won't let you kiss me. Qing Yutong didn't care so much and directly pounced onto Yi Zizi. The scene was a bit erotic. Fill in the blanks yourself. After playing around for a short while, the two walked towards the bar downstairs of the Three Seasons Hotel. When the passers-by saw the two's attire, they were undoubtedly dumbfounded. Dressing up like this in the middle of the night. Aren't you afraid of losing contact? In another room of the hotel, Jiuyi also received the orders of his two masters. Right now, Jiuyi was very gloomy. My two masters actually told me to go and kill someone. And it is even the same person. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? If I knew that it would be like this, I would have called someone else. I am not an assassin. Looking at the photo on my phone, this man is quite handsome. It is a pity that he provoked someone that he shouldn't have provoked. Jiuyi raised up the two bottles in his hands. Killing someone without a trace. I heard from my masters that after drinking this medicine, I won't die for the time being. But when I want to die, I will die. These two masters are thinking the same thing. Chapter 173. There was a Three Seasons bar downstairs of the Three Seasons Hotel. The place was quite big, and the business was also very good. There was no shortage of men hunting for sex, and there was no shortage of women seeking excitement. As long as you had money, you could really do whatever you wanted here. The DJ in the bar stirred up the atmosphere. Countless young men and women shook their bodies crazily, enjoying the excitement of physical contact with strangers. In the corner of the bar, two men sat in the booth. They were dressed in ordinary clothes and were not eye-catching. However, no one could have imagined that one of the men was the second young master of the Ing family, Ing Kongshi, and the other was his personal attendant Lu Bai. The two of them had been master and servant since they were young, and their relationship was quite good. At this time, Ing Kongshi was shaking his head along with the rhythm of the music. He was in a great mood, but Lu Bai, who was beside him, seemed very worried. Young master, let's go back. It's enough for your wedding. Don't cause any trouble. Lu Bai suggested. When the young master received the news today, he was so excited that he almost went to the heavens. Not only did he want to hold a banquet, He even sneaked out to have fun tonight. Inkongsher laughed and shouted, "Bibi, cheer up. Who would know that I'm here?" "But I'm afraid that young master will harm you," Lu Bai said worriedly. "Do you know why Her Majesty chose me and not him?" Inkongsher asked with a confident smile. Lu Bai shook his head. Inkongsher patted Lu Bai's shoulder. "Who would choose a troublemaker? Of course, they would choose someone who is easy to control just like me." Lu Bai came to a sudden realization. Young master is wise, but marrying him will damage young master's reputation. Inkongsher laughed out loud and lit up a cigarette. "Bibi, you really don't know anything. Being able to suppress the Empress makes my life worth it." Young master is right. It's a pity that the Eastern Emperor doesn't have a male successor. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a share in it. In the end, I'm just a sower. But no matter what, the seed is still my Ying family's. Inkongsher gradually stopped smiling and said in a low voice, "Of course, young master is currently the person that all men in the world are envious of." And the expression that young master had today was also, "Haha, my brother probably wants to kill me. Young master, let's go back. Safety is more important." Lu Bai continued to persuade. Inkongsher smiled and said, all right, let's go back after playing for a while. Order a fruit platter and 2 bottles of beer." Lu Bai sighed. The young master was probably bored to death. The things of the secular world were just so attractive. At this moment, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi had also arrived at the entrance of the bar. For beautiful women, there was no need for them to queue up, and they were directly allowed to enter. However, when the 2 of them appeared in the bar, everyone who saw them was stunned. This big and small pair was too awesome. It was Yi Zizi's first time in a bar. She became excited as soon as she heard the music. Her ponytail began to flutter, and her hair opened up. She was ready for a big cleaning. "Zizi, are you high?" Qing Yutong shouted out loudly. Yi Zizi paused for a moment. Her ponytail calmed down and she asked loudly, "Sister Qing, what are we going to do now?" "Of course we are going to shake it." Qing Yutong held onto Yi Zizi's hand and walked towards the dance floor. Just when they turned around, they bumped into a person, and the beer on the plate immediately fell onto the ground and shattered. Lord Jiu stared blankly at the broken wine bottle. He had changed into his work clothes the moment he arrived at the bar. All of this had been arranged beforehand. Now that the opportunity had come, the medicine had already been administered. The target was just 15 meters away, and yet, this woman knocked the target the moment she turned around. Jiuye's heart was bleeding. "Xiao Jiu, why is it you?" Qing Yutong cried out in surprise. When Jiuye saw this face, he finally knew why he was so unlucky. "Oh my god, these people are really haunting me. Forget about it being on the same flight. They even stayed in the same hotel. They even bumped into me when I was doing a mission. And they even spilled my poison. But luckily, I still have 1 more bottle. You got the wrong person." Jiuye lowered his head, turned around and left, and continued to administer the medicine. Qing Yutong pouted her mouth, but did not really care about it. Pulling Yi Zizi along, she ran to the dance floor and had fun. Sure enough, when the 2 girls ran to the dance floor, they immediately became the focus of attention. Everyone surrounded them into a circle and shouted out. Qing Yutong was a celebrity. Her dancing skills and whatnot were not difficult for her. It was Yi Zizi's first time dancing, and she did not really understand. But when she saw Qing Yutong twisting and turning, she started learning, and very quickly, she found the feeling. A beautiful woman that was bubbling with beauty, and a cute little loli. There were a lot of people at the scene who were currently opening up Baidu and searching how many years they would be sentenced to. Those 2 are a bit interesting. Inkongsher also noticed Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi who were on the dance floor. Lu Bai nodded his head. Gongzi's eyesight is indeed unique. Do you need me to go? Go ahead, this big and small pair are truly not bad. Inkongsher's eyes shone. This kind of beauty is too rare to see. Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi enjoyed everyone's gazes, and they felt great. And Yi Zizi became a bit excited again. I am almost unable to control the feeling of sucking people. Yi Zizi pouted her small mouth. Although it was not interesting for ordinary people to suck people, it was still better than nothing. 2 misses, Can you give me face and drink a cup of wine? Lu Bai could be seen walking in front of the two of them and shouting. Qing Yutong pulled Yi Zizi and straightforwardly agreed. There is a free drink to drink. It would be a waste not to drink. Lu Bai thought that it would be very hard to persuade them, but he didn't expect that it would be so easy. Seems like Gongzi is going to have good luck with women tonight. Seeing a beautiful woman leaving with a man, everyone was envious. This kind of thing is hard to encounter even once a year. Arriving at the booth, In Kongsher stood up, then stretched out his hand in a refined manner. Nice to meet you too. However, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi ignored him, and even more so, did not stretch out their hand and directly sat on the booth. In Kongsher retracted his hand a bit awkwardly. All beautiful women have such personality. Big sister Qing, I am a bit thirsty. Yi Zizi pulled onto Qing Yutong's arm. Qing Yutong looked towards In Kongsher and said with a smile, Handsome brother, you don't even have wine here. Why did you call us over? Wine. No problem. In Kongsher nodded his head towards Lu Bai, and the latter immediately went to make arrangements. Beautiful woman, did you come to Sanya for a vacation? In Kongsher revealed a smile that he thought was very handsome. Yi Zizi said coquettishly, I'm not telling you, damn. This little loli is simply too cute. If I were to grab onto those two ponytails, how refreshing would that be? If I were to add on the service of this beautiful woman, I would simply be as excited as pressing down on an empress. Mister, your wine is here. Jiuyi walked over with a smile and placed 2 bottles of beer on the table. However, when he saw Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi, his expression immediately stiffened. Why is it them again? It is one thing to encounter them in the same bar, but to actually sit beside my target. What if they were to drink this wine? A waiter could be seen walking over, and under Jiu Ye's dumbfounded gaze, the waiter placed all of the wine on the table. Chapter 174. Lord Jiu was on the verge of tears. Qing Yutong was very puzzled. What exactly is this 9th master doing? He secretly disguised himself as a waiter and looked as if he had just eaten **tea. How about playing dice? Qing Yutong suggested. Whatever the beautiful lady says. In Kongsher smiled faintly. The moment he thought about grabbing onto Ponytail and attacking crazily, he was secretly delighted. Qing Yutong laughed lightly. It's just that it's boring if there are too few people. Lu Bai smiled and said, I can do it too. How about we call him along as well? Qing Yutong pointed at Jiu Yi with her delicate index finger. Jiu Yi was about to collapse. I really want to cry. But the person who wanted to cry even more was the other waiter. You guys actually ordered an old waiter, and not a young fellow. Could it be that the taste of beauties nowadays has changed? How could Lord Jiu agree? He hurriedly said, Sir, I have to go to work. Lu Bai threw a bundle of red notes and said, I'm familiar with the boss here. Lord Jiu was also afraid that if he continued to refuse, his scheme would be exposed. All right. But there were at least 60 bottles here. Which 2 bottles were drugged? F***ck. This woman was a devil. Nothing good ever came out of meeting her. If you lose, you will lose a bottle. Qing Yutong said tenderly. In Kongsher gave her a thumbs up and said, Beauty, you're so straightforward. 1 bottle it is. He saw that Yi Zizi had already opened a bottle and was drinking it first as a sign of respect. Burp, looking at Yi Zizi's appearance when she burped. It was so adorable that everyone was about to explode. In Kongsher couldn't wait any longer. Little loli, my love, the 5 of them were playing dice, and they were drinking bottle after bottle. Soon, half of the bottles were gone. Lord Jiu drank about 10 bottles, and he didn't know if he had drunk poison. He felt unwell. It was all their fault. Why did they come here to drink? If they didn't come, the 2 bottles of wine they had just brought would have been drunk by this target. Although it was fine to drink the wine, as long as he cast a spell, he would instantly die on the spot. If the master cast a spell now, he would definitely die. Which 2 bottles were they? Because he was worried about the poison wine bottle, Lord Jiu was not in the mood to play the game. But because he was not in the mood to play, the chances of him losing were higher, so of course he drank more. Not long after, the wine bottles on the table were emptied. Just who was it that drank those 2 bottles? Jiuyi also did not know, but he knew that the probability of him being the one that drank those 2 bottles was higher. This beer is boring, serve it white. Qing Yutong snorted. In Kongsher couldn't wait to get them drunk. Therefore, he simply used the liquor with the highest alcohol content. Of course, he didn't drink it 1 bottle at a time. Instead, he drank it in small cups. Other than Jiuyi, those sitting here were either old monsters or people with systems. Of course, there were also 2 cultivators. The pitiful Jiuyi was probably going to cry himself to sleep in the toilet. Why did the immortals call a mortal like him to join in on the fun? Yizizi was a little bored. It was not as exciting as I stab you and you stab me. She was playing with In Kongsher's Zippo lighter. Lord Jiu could no longer hold on, and was the first to fall. The others were like drinking water. The drunk Lord Jiu revealed a gratified smile. He must have dreamed that he had completed the mission. Beauty, you've lost again. In Kongsher chuckled. However, it was strange. This woman had already drunk quite a bit. Why wasn't she drunk? Qing Yutong snorted, then looked at Yi Zizi who was playing with the lighter, then said, "Handsome brother, your luck is not bad." Qing Yutong could be seen standing up, then filling up the beer for herself, then filling up the beer for In Kongsher. However, right at this moment, Qing Yutong seemed to be a little unstable. She swung her delicate hand, and a small cup of liquor spilled onto In Kongsher's crotch. Yi Zizi was startled. She swung the lighter in her hand, and it just so happened to land on In Kongsher's crotch. "Big sister Qing, are you drunk?" "Fire! Fire! Fire!" In Kongsher was a little stupefied. Who doesn't stupefy when his crotch is on fire? In Kongsher immediately patted his crotch. Yi Zizi turned pale with fright. "Don't panic, I'm here to save you." Yi Zizi could be seen pouring the liquor on the table. Pooh! The fire became a little more ferocious. Lu Bai hurriedly prepared to save In Kongsher, but Qing Yutong pushed him away with her delicate hand and shouted, "Let me do it." The 10 centimeters high heel directly stabbed towards the fire. "No! Ah!" In Kongsher let out a miserable scream. However, his scream was drowned out by the music, and adding that it was at a corner, who would look at him? "Zizi, quickly come and help me." Qing Yutong stepped on In Kongsher's crotch with all her might. Meanwhile, Lu Bai was lying on the sofa, unable to move at all as he watched his young master being humiliated. Yi Zizi's body was rather short, and thus, she stood on the sofa and stepped on the fire. In Kongsher, who had fainted, was woken up by the pain, and he just happened to see Yi Zizi's foot landing on the fire. "Don't!" In Kongsher felt that his crotch seemed to be missing something, and it felt empty. "Don't speak. Zizi is here to save your life." After finished speaking, Yi Zizi ferociously stepped on In Kongsher's crotch, and In Kongsher immediately fainted again. "Just how big of a grudge do you have against my crotch? Furthermore, you are not saving my life. You are trying to take my life." The rescue was still going on, and after stomping on In Kongsher ferociously for around 5 minutes, the fire was finally extinguished. Qing Yutong wiped off the sweat on her forehead. Luckily, no one was burnt. Yi Zizi sighed. He was too careless. If it weren't for the 2 of us, he would have been burned to death. Lu Bai felt that he could control his body again, and he pounced towards his young master. "Young master! Young master! Wake up! Quickly bring him to the hospital, we can only help him to this point. Zizi, let's go." After finished speaking, Qing Yutong pulled Yi Zizi and left. Walking out of the bar, the 2 of them shook their eyebrows, high-fived each other, and hopped back to sleep. How dare you tease me? I will stomp on you in the bar." Lu Bai looked at young master's crotch. It was dyed red with fresh blood. It was probably a mess of flesh and blood. No. He had to go back and get treated. Lu Bai carried In Kongsher on his back and left quickly. Lord Jiu, who was originally drunk, immediately opened his eyes. If he did not pretend to be drunk just now, who knows how much he would have drunk. But when he squinted his eyes and saw them being violent, he couldn't help but touch his crotch. It was too cruel. A living person was trampled into a cripple by them. Thinking about how those 10 centimeters high heels pierced into his body, that kind of sour feeling. I reckon that only my target would be able to experience it. Now is not the time to think about this. I have to report to my master. Please don't use any magic. After changing his clothes, Lord Gio immediately returned to his room and sent a message to one of his masters. Master, the poison seems to have been drunk by me. After waiting for a long time, his master finally replied. Lord Gio was a bit stupefied. I don't understand what these 6 dots mean, but no matter what, I still have to report back the message that I just received. Master, although the target did not die, his balls exploded. Lord Gio's master clearly did not react to what Lord Gio said, and was still thinking about what the word balls meant. After a long time he replied, What do you mean? Lord Gio wanted to give this master of mine a new definition. You don't even understand this. Don't tell me that you are still a virgin. The target might have become a eunuch right now. After finished speaking, Lord Gio waited for a reply. As long as the target doesn't scold me and give me the antidote, it will be fine. Little Gio, well done. Looking at the reply, Lord Gio was very stupefied. What is going on? What do you want? Tell me. Anything is fine. Lord Gio was stupefied. This might be a blessing in disguise. Chapter 175. Right now, Lu Bai was carrying Ing Kongsher on his back and flying towards the sea surface at high speed while muttering, Young master, hold on, we are almost there. If I knew that this would be the end result, I would have already persuaded young master to go back home. How am I going to explain such a big matter to him? In the sky, Lu Bai suddenly stopped and took out a token. A white halo appeared in front of him and directly passed through. It was still the sea surface, but there was an island not far away. There were ancient buildings built on the island, and a towering city gate extended to both sides of the island. Day and night, the city gate faced the sea and the sunrise. The city gate was grand and magnificent. There were more than 20 buildings on the city gate, but it didn't feel crowded or repetitive at all. There were pavilions, terraces, waterside pavilions, strange rocks, flower beds, and bonsai decorating the buildings. When the guards on the city gate saw someone flying over, they immediately raised their vigilance and shouted, Who are you? Quickly get out of the way. This is the second young master. Lu Bai shouted. The guards were startled and immediately kept their weapons and lowered their heads. Lu Bai didn't think too much and ran straight towards the center of the buildings. That was the resting place of Ing family's family master. As the family master of Ing family, Ing Jingshan didn't have many wives and concubines. In his entire life, he only had this one woman by his side, and her name was Yu He. This was the woman that Ing Jingshan met when he went out to train. She didn't have an astonishing appearance, but she was able to move this man's heart. And Yu He was just an ordinary person. Nestling in her husband's embrace, Yu He slightly frowned and said, Jingshan, won't Kong be wronged by marrying her? How can that be? The other party is Donghuang Baiji. There are countless men who want to marry her. Kong being able to have such a life is also his fortune. Besides, this marriage is not bad. As the family master of Ing family, of course, he would consider everything. And as a mother, she would definitely only consider her son's happiness. Yu He sighed lightly. But I keep feeling uneasy. I heard that this empress is very tyrannical. I'm afraid that Kong will be at a disadvantage. Things will change after getting married. Right now, what we should be worrying about is Hoer's marriage. Did he fancy any girl from any family? Ing Jingshan asked with a smile. Ing Jingshan still felt that his eldest son, Ing Ho, was more suitable to inherit his position. At first, he thought that his youngest son would be wronged, but he didn't expect that his youngest son would be marrying Donghuang Baiji. Looking at my eldest son's attitude today, it seems like he is unwilling to give up. Thinking about it, it makes sense. No matter how much power he has, conquering a woman like Donghuang Baiji is equivalent to conquering the world. Ho had been working hard since he was a child, striving to become the next patriarch of the Ing family. Kong on the other hand, didn't work so hard. It seemed that he didn't want to be the next patriarch, nor did he want to fight for it. Now things were great. With a single word from the empress, his younger brother's status would far surpass his own. How could he be willing to accept this? If he did not work hard, he would soar into the sky in a single bound. Jingshan, I think it's better not to talk about Hoer's marriage now. After all, Konger's partner is the empress. It's inevitable that Hoer will feel unbalanced. If he finds an ordinary woman, won't he be even angrier? I don't want to see the two brothers have a falling out. Although Yuha was an ordinary person, after marrying Ing Jingshan, she had slowly learned this kind of worldview. Ing Jingshan let out a deep sigh. I really don't know if this empress' words are good or bad. Our Ing family just wants to live peacefully, that's all. Whatever power struggle, let it be. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside. It had been a long time since something like this had happened in the Ing family. I'll go take a look, Ing Jingshan said in a deep voice. I'll go with you. The two of them put on their black silk nightgowns and walked out of the room. They immediately looked at Lu Bai and cried loudly, Patriarch, madam, quickly save young master, he's dying. Yi Zizi and Qing Yutong didn't go easy on Yi Zizi and Qing Yutong, especially Qing Yutong. She was stepping on Yi Zizi and Qing Yutong to death. If Qing Yutong knew that the one she stepped on this time was the second son of Ing family, would she have a different reaction? What's going on? Ing Jingshan shouted. He hurriedly checked on his son's injuries, and his expression was terrifyingly heavy. Lu Bai wailed loudly. Patriarch, young master is so pitiful, he was trampled on like this. Ing Jingshan's eyes widened as he bellowed. Quickly call Divine Dr. Song over. When Yuhi took a closer look, she immediately had a feeling of dizziness. My son's crotch is filled with blood. After a while, Divine Dr. Song arrived. At the same time, Marquis Ing also arrived. His appearance was slightly worse than Ing Kongsher's. There was a mole on his chin, and he gave off the feeling that he was a wily old fox. At the same time, the other members of the Ing family also arrived. Everyone sat in the great hall, waiting for the result. Lu Bai knelt in the center, sobbing quietly. Ing Jingshan fiercely slammed onto the table. What are you crying for? Tell me everything that happened in detail. While sobbing, Lu Bai narrated everything that happened in detail. He didn't add anything and didn't cut anything out. Honest people are easy to bully. All the members of the Ing family, who were sitting in the hall, knew that they stepped on an iron plate and got beaten up. A skinny middle-aged man took the initiative to voice out his opinion. His name was Ing Xiang, Ing Jingshan's younger brother. The Empress passed the news to me in the morning. It hasn't even been a day, and nephew Kong has already made such a joke out of himself. If the news were to reach the ears of the Empress, wouldn't that be bad? Is the son that my Ing family brought up to be like this? Ing Xiang's words had a bit of a taste of throwing stones at a person who was down, and there was even more of a hidden mockery hidden within. Marquis Ing, who was standing behind his father, didn't say anything. Right now, silence spoke louder than words. Lu Bai, who was kneeling on the ground, spoke up for his master. Second young master went there to drink a few cups of wine, because he was happy today. I reckon that he got drunk, and that's why he asked this lowly one to go and call those two girls over. Ing Shang was the third son, and he was a bit plump when he reached middle age. He could be heard saying unhurriedly, forget about the adult females, there was even an underage child among them. Big brother, if such a thing were to be spread out, it would be such a loss of face. Second young master really didn't have any other thoughts. At that time, this lowly one also didn't know what happened. Second young master's crotch suddenly caught on fire, and the two girls helped second young master to extinguish the fire. After fiercely kicking second young master's crotch, this lowly one didn't know why I couldn't move, and could only watch as second young master was being kicked alive. Lu Bai hurriedly spoke up for Ing Kongsher. Ing Jingshan took a deep breath and asked, were those two girls ordinary people? Lu Bai nodded his head, expressing that he didn't notice anything strange. The first guess that appeared in Ing Jingshan's mind was that someone intentionally set up a trap. Are there any other strange phenomena? Yuha asked cleanly. There was a strange middle-aged waiter who had a restless expression on his face. Lu Bai recalled for a while and said, Marquis Ing, who didn't speak all along, paused for a moment. Ing Jingshan made a preliminary judgment. Seems like the news of Kong going out today was found out by someone, and someone plotted against him. At this moment, an old man slowly walked into the hall and bowed towards everyone. Divine Dr. Song, how is Kong-er's condition? Yuha asked worriedly. Divine Dr. Song let out a sigh. This old man has already tried his best. Second young master's lamp has been extinguished. Upon hearing this result, everything before Yuha's eyes turned black, and she fainted. Yuha. Chapter 176. Yuha couldn't take this kind of blow and fainted. My son is actually unable to have sex. Jingshan carried his wife back to the room to rest, then came to the main hall. His face was terrifyingly gloomy. On the other hand, the other family members didn't seem to care much about it. To them, this might be an opportunity. Could it be that the empress is going to marry a eunuch? How is that possible? He is not the only boy in the Hu Jing family. Xiang said. Big brother, it has only been a day, and nephew Kong is already like this. How are we going to explain this to the empress? That's right, big brother. It is already very shameful for such a thing to happen to Ying family. The betrothal gifts are going to be sent over tomorrow. Big brother, it is better for you to make plans as soon as possible. Shang also followed and said, if my son marries the empress, that would be the rhythm of a meteoric rise. Furthermore, big brother only has 2 sons. One has become a eunuch, and the other has to marry out, leaving the position of the family head empty. Or continue to be the family head, and let the other boys marry out. You can't have your cake and eat it too. This matter must be investigated thoroughly. Jingshan shouted gravely. Yes. Bring back the waiters of the bar and those 2 girls. I would like to see who dares to mess with our Ying family. Yes. It was impossible to find Jiu Yi. All of the registered information was fake. And right now, Jiu Yi had already returned to Long and City in the middle of the night, and his butt was wiped clean. However, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi were not that lucky. Xiang said hurriedly. Big brother, tracking down the culprit behind the scenes is important. But how do we answer the empress tomorrow is also important. Let me think about it. All of you go and rest. Jingshan waved his hand, feeling depressed in his heart. Unexpectedly, Shang said, Big brother, nephew Kong is going to hold a banquet at 3 Seasons Hotel tomorrow. Should we cancel this banquet? He is already like that. He can't even stand up. And there is still a banquet to celebrate? Celebrate that there is another father-in-law in this world? Cancel it. Kongsher said, then left to take a look at his son's injuries. The other family members shook their heads, then left after chatting with Ho for a bit. After everyone left, Ho revealed a trace of a smile. This Jiu Ye's way of handling things is really unexpected. This is even more ruthless than killing people. Presumably, those 2 girls should be called by Jiu Yi as well. What was so good about being the Ying family's patriarch? It was only interesting to be the empress man. As for the 2 girls, of course, he couldn't capture them. If they confessed, he would be finished. Since that was the case, he could only kill them. Lord Jiu still had some use for them, so he wouldn't kill them for now. In Kongsher's room, Lu Bai accompanied him and took care of him attentively. Right now, young master's face was pale, and he already looked like a father-in-law. How miserable. How is it? Jingshan walked over and asked. Lu Bai respectfully said, Divine Dr. Song said that second young master is fine and will wake up soon. Just as he finished speaking, Kongsher, who was lying on the bed, woke up with a frown. Father Lu Bai, you guys are all here. Kongsher said with a faint smile. He did not feel that he had lost an organ. Seeing the strange expression on the 2 people's faces, Kongsher immediately recalled what happened just now. Lowering his head to take a look, I feel empty. Young master, don't touch it. Divine Dr. Song just applied the medicine. Lu Bai hurriedly warned. The corner of Kongsher's mouth began to twitch. His crotch area was flat, and his facial expression changed drastically. Calm down. Jingshan wasn't feeling well either. His son was crippled. Who would be able to accept it? Father, save me. I don't want to have no foundation. If I don't have any foundation, how am I going to marry the empress? 2 hours ago, he was still having a sweet dream, fantasizing about the empress's body, but now, Konger, what exactly happened? Ing Jingshan didn't want to give his son a blow. You definitely can't get married. Ing Kongsher's expression immediately became sinister. Father, it's those two women. Those two women did it on purpose. I am going to hack them into pieces. I am going to be a prostitute forever. I heard from Lu Bai that there was a 7 or 8 years old child among them. Ing Jingshan questioned. Although he felt heartache, he was also hateful. If it wasn't for you lusting after women, how could such a thing have happened? To actually lay your hands on a child, you have lost all your face. Ing Kongsher immediately thought of Yi Zizi's face, that petite figure, and that pair of ponytails. It's a pity that it's impossible for me to grab onto those ponytails right now. Not even in this lifetime. Father, I only invited them for a drink. I don't have any other motive. Ing Kongsher hurriedly explained. Ing Jingshan let out a deep sigh. Father, I still have to hold a banquet tomorrow. I will cancel it for you. You just have to properly recuperate at home. Ing Ho has already caught the person who injured you. After finished speaking, Ing Jingshan walked out. His mood was very bad. Cancel? How can I cancel it? If I do that, wouldn't I be ridiculed by everyone? Ridiculing me for standing up is better than ridiculing me for being a father-in-law. Ing Jingshan's thoughts were very simple. This matter can't be spread out. If there is a need, Konger can't go out in this lifetime. Ing family can't afford to lose this face. However, this is impossible. Ing family is definitely going to lose this face. Young master, Lu Bai shouted out in concern. Ing Kongsher's eyes were lifeless. He wasn't stupid. Father's meaning just now was very clear. I who have no foundation. It's impossible for me to marry the empress. I am not resigned. I have to be so careful when I go out tonight. I must have been discovered by someone. Big Brother is the biggest suspect. Thinking back to Big Brother's expression in the morning, Ing Kongsher seemed to have already confirmed it, and thought silently in his heart. If I can't get it, don't even think about getting it. Looking at the young master's pair of gloomy and cold eyes, Lu Bai was endlessly worried. Within the Three Seasons Hotel, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi took a bath and wore cute pajamas. It was normal for Ing Kongsher to have such a thought. Even if there wasn't Ing Kongsher, there would still be other tycoons who invited them, and the ending should be more or less the same. Ing Kongsher can only blame himself for being too unlucky. He is destined to not be able to become the Empress man. Zizi, you were really smart just now. Qing Yutong pinched onto Yi Zizi's little face. Originally, when she saw Yi Zizi playing with the lighter, she conveniently knocked over the wine glass. And very quickly, Yi Zizi's little hand trembled, causing the lighter to fall onto the glass. One could well imagine what would happen if the two of them were to stay together. This was also the reason why Yi Hua didn't want Yi Zizi and Qing Yutong to be together. To Yi Zizi, this was just a child's play. Yi Zizi revealed out 2 cute little dimples. Humph, Zizi has long been unable to stand the sight of him. Originally, I wanted to burn him with fire. Damn Zizi, you are so violent. This won't do. Girls have to be more obedient. Qing Yutong guided attentively. Big sister Qing, Zizi learned it from you. You are so straightforward when you step on him. Qing Yutong's eyebrows twitched. Yi Zizi immediately understood. The two turned on their computers. It was impossible for them not to eat chicken before going to bed. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.